Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most horrifying stories ever told through FNAF fan games. From disturbing mysteries to tragic events and revelations that completely change how you see the characters, these games aren't just scary because of what you see. Some of their most terrifying moments come from the stories hidden beneath the surface, so let's dive into them. What do you think is the most overused and bloated genre in the FNAF community? I know that might seem like a weird question, but in recent years, I really think I've come up with a really good answer to it. Just something that you see in FNAF games that has become sickening to see. Maybe you think the ransomware trend has run its course and needs a break for a while. Maybe you think boss fight nights have been done to death and we need something new. Or maybe it's something else entirely. Well, for me personally, I think every other FNAF game being about Fredbear has been done so much and I just really need a break. However, as I'm sure you could have guessed from me bringing this up, that is the type of game we'll be talking about today. And no, unfortunately for you, it isn't Fredbear game number 998433, so if you were hoping for that today, I apologize. But stick around because I think you'll really like this one too. Maybe. The game we'll be talking about today is called Welcome to Fredbears, and I'm willing to bet that even if you've seen this game before, you might not know which one it is just from me talking about it, since all of the titles of the Fredbears games are pretty much exactly the same. I would explain what the game is about, but that's what the entire video is, so just strap in, try the Big Mac meal for the first time, and let's get right into Welcome to Fredbears. Welcome to Fredbears starts with an opening cutscene. In this game, we actually play as William, which I think is pretty cool. We get a call from an unknown number, and the man on the other end explains that he works at a storage facility in Utah. I personally didn't even know anybody actually lived in Utah. I thought that was just like some fairy tale place, but hey, I guess you learn something new every day.
Hello?
Hello?
Am I speaking to William Afton?
Yes, and you are?
I'm calling you on behalf of the storage and rental of Utah. Unfortunately, we have gone out of business, and we're accordingly emptying out all of our storage units, except for yours due to the excessive amount of items in your units. So please come to the storage facility at your earliest convenience or you will be fined. If possible, tonight.
With that, William wastes no time and pulls right up to the storage facility like I pull up to Shotty's house after she had 3 bean burritos from Taco Bell. Jesus Christ, dude, we're just getting started. What is wrong with me? After entering the building, we go to find our storage unit, only to see a sticky note on the door explaining that the key to our unit is on the desk in the main room, just making me waste my fucking time walking all the way back to the front desk to pick it up, only for us to then have to walk all the way back. Personally, I'm loving the direction this game is going already, aren't you? By the way, during this opening section, we have a to-do list to guide us along the way of what we're supposed to do. And I personally like to imagine that William is writing these notes to himself so that he knows what he has to do. And I think it's really funny that he's writing basic shit like find a unit, open the unit, like he's retarded and won't be able to remember basic things. Anyways, moving on. With that, we open our storage unit and step inside, only to realize that this just might be the largest storage unit to ever grace the face of the planet, because holy shit, this thing is gigantic. I happen to own a few storage units myself, and not a single one is even close to being this big, but that's really besides the point. Obviously, the real reason we're here is to move all of our belongings out of the unit, which I find odd because we only came here in our tiny little dinky car, knowing full well we have a storage unit full of shit to clear out. I guess we just really want to be moving for the next month straight. And now, would you believe me if I told you that even knowing we have to start moving things out, we don't start moving things out? I know. Hard to believe that we would come to this building and not do the one fucking thing we were tasked with doing. So you might be wondering, if we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, then what are we doing? Oh shit! Oh shit! Motherfucker old as shit! Look at the motherfucking glasses on that bitch! Dang, a fat motherfucker right here got a big old pot belly out in that big boy. Fuck. Well, the answer to that question is simple. All we have to do is walk around the unit and look at sticky notes. As you can see, we have several animatronics around the area, and each is labeled with a sticky note. It seems like these variations of the characters are very early versions of the final designs, which would make sense since most of the Fredbears games do take place a long time ago. Every time we pick up a sticky note, a page is added to our notebook where we're tricked into thinking that we're going to be learning something interesting about the characters, when in reality, that's not true, and we actually just learn how we're going to have to deal with each of these characters once we finally get into the night sections. Speaking of, when does that actually happen? Fantastic question, viewer of questionable age. I'm rewriting that line. That sounds awful. Fantastic question, viewer who probably isn't actually viewing the video, but is instead listening to it in the background. Let me tell you exactly what happens next. After we look at the last sticky note, we hear an alarm go off. Stepping out of our unit for a moment, we see that the door to the hallway we're in has been closed. Looking around, we see nothing weird, and then somehow fucking Circus Baby appears right next to us. Oh my fucking cry ass, bitch! The fuck was that, ho? Who the hell was that? What the fuck baby bitch doing in here? Tall glass of water looking ass. No, seriously, where the fuck did she come from? We look in both directions and see nothing, and then somehow she's right next to us. Tell me how that makes any sense at all. Anyways, we have to do a short QuickTime event to get away from baby and then run to the security office. Now pause. Why the fuck do we have a security office inside of our storage unit? It's not like this security office is to the entire building. No, it's actually specifically inside of our unit. Tell me how that makes any sense at all. Oh yeah, it doesn't. After making our way into the office, we see Baby walk up to the window where we learn the first mechanic of this game. Throughout the night, Baby will approach our window. When she does, all we have to do is shut the power to the office off so that she can't see us, and eventually she'll leave. She will do this several times. It's also just scripted here at this moment. Throughout the game, we'll be able to pull out our notebook and read about the animatronics we took notes on, which will soon be attacking us. Something I chose not to do during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I instead chose to trial and error things for minutes on end because I forgot that I could look at this notebook. It's also in this notebook where we can see William live writing his thoughts instead of defending himself. This game is split into hours rather than nights, and on the first hour, he writes this.
Building power. It seems like the power in the building is out, except for this security office. The computer seems to be working. I can probably use it to get the power in the building up and running again. Until then, I'll just have to survive.
And with that, we're thrown into the first hour of the game, and this video can finally start sounding like all of my other videos. To start, let's go over the office and the tools at our disposal. During the free roam section, we picked up a flashlight, and we still have that now. We can flash this light, which is exactly how a flashlight works, so I don't know why I told you that. To our left, we have the door to this tiny room. It can be toggled and thankfully has no power system. You will see how I abuse this game's kindness with this mechanic a bit later. And finally, to our right, we have the second threat this game introduces, which I guess I'll talk about right now since he's literally right in our office. This is Fredbear. You might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't Fredbear one of the characters that we saw out in the storage area? And you would be right in saying that. However, this is also Fredbear. It's just another one because why make a new character when we could just fucking not, right? Yay, creativity! Throughout the night, Fredbear will try to get up and attack you. Dealing with him is incredibly easy. All you have to do is occasionally hold your flashlight on him and he'll sit his fat happy ass back down. Your flashlight also has no power, so you'll be happy to hear you don't really ever have to worry about that. Finally, the last thing to talk about is the way the night progresses. Even though we have a clock on our desk, that is very misleading as this game is not completed based on time, but is instead a task-based completion game, which you know what that means. No actual task, and it's just waiting with extra steps. Also on our desk is a computer. Turning on the computer will show two things that we have to reboot, the ventilation and the power. When you click on them, they will slowly start to reboot. And once both of them are rebooted, then the hour will be over. Very boring, but sure, whatever, I guess. Something I want to mention about Baby, since it actually makes sense to mention it now, is what happens when you turn the power off to deal with her. Well, that's very simple. Not only does your door open if it was closed, but of course your computer will turn off as well and progress to rebooting will be paused. Now, that's not a problem at all, but what is a problem is the embarrassing amount of times I forgot to turn the computer back on, leading to the night taking way fucking longer than it ever needed to. So, even though Baby did follow us to the room this night, she surprisingly isn't actually active at this point in time. Who is active, however, is Fredbear. No, not the Fredbear in our office. Well, yes, he is active too. I'm talking about the other Fredbear, the one that we saw a bit earlier. In hour 1, we're attacked by 2 Fredbears at the same time. Talk about the worst double penetration of your life. This is a train you never want to ride on. Fredbear 2, as I will be calling him from now on, will be present outside of your door. Slowly throughout the hour, he will creep closer and closer to your office like Jared Fogle used to creep closer to playgrounds in broad daylight. All you have to do is literally the exact same thing as the Fredbear in our office. Occasionally flash your light through the doorway to scare him away. So as long as you're doing that semi-frequently, you'll be fine. And you'll be doing it a lot because this is what the gameplay looks like all the time.
All I know is DDF, AAF, DDF, AAF. That's all I know.
But yeah, that's all this first hour has to offer, except you'll be excited to hear that this game actually has some post-night minigames that are just as mind-numbing as the actual nights. Aren't you just so fucking excited? I know I am. After the reboot is up, obviously the power goes out since it's all rebooting. During this time, we need to turn around and replace 3 fuses in the generator so that the reboot can be completed. Doing this is very easy, but very time-consuming. You will have to very slowly unscrew 6 different screws to get the fuses out. Each screw will take about 30 fucking seconds to undo, so be prepared to be here for the next 8 years. I'm not very good at math. After all of the screws are out, you have to remove the 3 fuses, grab 3 more from a box on your right, and replace them, then re-screw the goddamn screws. Are you fucking kidding me? Holy shit. Of course, it's not just that easy. Everybody knew it wasn't going to be that easy. During this minigame, you're armed with a lighter. What happened to your flashlight? I literally have no idea. It's not tied to power, so I don't see why we couldn't use it, aside from the fact that the dev thought using a lighter during this section would just be more creepy. Who really knows? Both Fredbear and Bonnie will be coming for your cheeks during this section. However, you'll notice that it's really only ever Fredbear that's a problem, and you'll understand why once I explain how they work. You will have to listen very closely since they both are pretty quiet. Fredbear will attack from your left and Bonnie will attack from your right. When you hear Fredbear moving, all you have to do is turn left and hold your lighter in his face until he sits back down. Something about this lighter though is that it doesn't always light up properly on the first go. So you'll have to flick it quite a few times, which I will admit is pretty nerve-wracking and is pretty fucking cool. I'll explain Bonnie a bit later since the chances of him attacking you during this section are pretty much 0. So for now, let's finish up the fuses and reboot the power and start on the next hour. Something I do actually like about this game is how it really feels like it's one constant night throughout. After you finish the fuse, you turn back around and the next hour continues right there. It's just a simple detail, but a lot of the time it's the simple details I like the most. This hour does introduce someone new, who is really just a copycat of a character we've talked about already. You know, recently, as I've been looking for games, I've been going back on older games I've played on Dxtr Black and wondering why I've never made videos about them. Now that I've finally been starting to do that, it's pretty obvious to me why I haven't. A lot of the FNAF games I've played really just don't have a lot to talk about, and I don't want my videos to be under 20 minutes. That's why a lot of the time in these newer Dxtr White videos, you'll hear me go on retarded tangents more often. I don't want you guys to have a 10-minute video to watch. Anyways, moving on. The new character introduced on this night is Bonnie. Hey, awesome, we were just talking about you. Now, technically, this character is Spring Bonnie. However, the sticky note calls him Bonnie, so I'm going to be calling him Bonnie too, since that takes a lot less time to type. And I have a pounding migraine right now. I want to get this script writing section of the video's pipeline done as fast as I possibly can. Bonnie is pretty much just baby, and by pretty much, I mean he literally is. Bonnie will occasionally walk up to the window in front of you. When he does, all you have to do is turn the power off until you hear him knock on the glass, and then a few seconds later, you'll be able to turn the power back on again. And for the love of fuck, do not forget to turn your computer back on like I did.
Holy shit. I wonder how many more times I'm gonna forget to turn that thing on and just absolutely just fucking ream myself.
Anyways, now we can move on to talking about the post-hour minigame. Hooray! You may be wondering what there even is to talk about here since it's going to be the same thing every single time. And that's a very good question. But worry not, I have an answer for you. On this hour is when Bonnie will finally be here in this reboot section. However, he's also joined by the other Fredbear. Fredbear 2 works the exact same as Fredbear 1, except he attacks the opposite side. Same shit, different different day with him. Just turn your lighter on and he'll go away. Bonnie, however, is a bit different and is literally completely useless as a character during this section. He will only ever attack your right side, and he has a different sound cue that plays from Fredbear 2. The difference between the sound cues is incredibly noticeable, so you will literally never mess them up and confuse the two. When Bonnie attacks, all you have to do is not turn the lighter on, so you can literally just fucking ignore him. It's not even like you can't move. No, you can move as much as you want. You can even keep unscrewing and he won't bother you. So like, what is even the point of having him there? I have no idea. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about. Let's move on to the next office hour. Hour 3 is quite literally the exact same as Hour 2. No new threats are introduced. Everyone is just a little bit more aggressive. That is, except for Bonnie, who is a fuck ton more aggressive. So much so that you may have him attack pretty much the moment you turn the power back on. He means business and he's not messing around. And of course, when you're like me and forget to turn the computer back on, with how much he attacks, this hour will slow to a fucking crawl. It's completely brutal and one of the most painful experiences I've ever been through. And I've been mauled by a dog and hit by a car, so that's saying a lot. I really just feel like there could have been so much more done with this game. Truly, they had a pretty interesting free roam section at the beginning of this game, and they just don't use it anymore. This gameplay loop of turning back and forth is the rest of the game. I think it could be really interesting if, let's say, for example, after completing an hour, the batteries to our flashlight died, and we had to exit the security office and walk around the darkness looking for new batteries while the animatronics patrolled around and we only had our lighter. I know I personally hate stuff like that, but really anything would be an improvement from how boring this game really feels. And like, not even introducing a new character each hour makes it even worse. It's so boring. Like, I just saw Fredbear, Fredbear 2, and Bonnie. Why are you only giving me them again? Add something new. Even if it's not a new character, add a new mechanic. Make the task you have to complete each night something different, not just a fucking waiting simulator. Make one of the tasks be a minigame where you have to move through a maze or something, like the Tron game you have to play when you're doing heists in GTA Online. That'd be so fucking cool. But no, instead we're given barnacle dick, bottom of the barrel ChatGPT ass ideas. Actually, that's not even true. I bet ChatGPT could think of a somewhat different way to spice up the gameplay a little bit. This game looks really good and the voice acting we've heard is amazing. It's just really disappointing that the actual gameplay of the game isn't interesting at all. Anyways, of course, after completing the task, we turn around and do the exact same fuse box task again, which by the way, I will mention is very odd. Why are we having to replace the fuses every hour? This seems very counterintuitive. William has to be spending upwards of $12,000 on fuses monthly to keep this shit lit up. And we know he is because when we first entered the unit, the lights were on. And from the phone call, it sounds like he hasn't been there in a while. So like, what the actual fuck is going on? So much of this game just doesn't make any sense. But whatever, let's just move on to the next hour where hopefully something new is introduced. Hour 4 or 3 a.m. once again, and I'm not kidding, literally introduces nothing new again. Once more, it's just Fredbear, Fredbear 2, and Bonnie, except they're more aggressive than before. But spoiler alert, there's so little to do during this game that even if their AI is increasing, you really won't be able to tell since it's not any harder. Flash, turn, turn, flash, turn, turn, flash, repeat. If you ever hear Bonnie, shut the power off. When that is the gameplay loop, it really doesn't fucking matter how fast you make the characters, since the only difference you'll actually notice is that each night turns into a fucking slog because you have to turn the power off for way longer, meaning that your tasks aren't being finished, which doesn't make the game more challenging, it just makes the game way more uninteresting. If you haven't noticed, we're halfway through this game and we haven't had to close the door a single time. During my playthrough, I was choosing to, but there's literally no character throughout the game so far that would make you close this stupid door. I'm honestly confused why we can't have it closed the whole time. Sure, Fredbear 2 will kill us, but I wonder how that's even possible. If we have a robot that's able to open the only door defending us, I think we have a much bigger issue on our hands in all honesty. Since I literally have nothing to talk about right now, I guess I could bring up what happens if you don't turn the lights off for Bonnie, since I'm just now noticing I didn't do that. If you don't turn the power off, he'll punch a hole in your window like he's Blank from Five Nights at Candy's. That's about it. But guys, come on, can you tell I've really got nothing to work with in this game? And of course, the post-night minigame is nothing different at all. Fuck trying something new and exciting, right? The entire FNAF community are all retards and they'll just eat up anything you put in front of them. And that pisses me off because it worked on me. I beat the fucking game even though I thought it was boring. Maybe I'm the problem. I have no idea. I want to keep yapping about stuff since I can tell this script really isn't going to be much longer if this game keeps going in the direction it's going in, but I've really got nothing else to talk about here, so let's just move on to Hour 5. Hour 5 thankfully does actually give me something else to talk about. 2 new things, actually. Don't know why you couldn't have just split them up so that the last night wasn't so fucking useless, but oh well, I suppose. This night reintroduces Baby, so let's get to talking about her since her mechanic has changed just slightly. Same thing as before. She'll walk up to your window on occasion just like Bonnie, and all you have to do is turn the power off. But then she'll walk to the left. This signals that she's about to attack your door, so you'll need to close it. Now you might be thinking, how are you going to be able to turn the power back on and close the door by the time Baby is able to get over to it? Well, come on in real close because that's a really good question. And luckily I do have an answer. You're just not really gonna like it. You can actually close the door while the power is out. Yes, I'm serious. I lied before. There's just so many goddamn problems here. I don't even know where to start. What do you mean the door can close while there's no power? It's a mechanical door. It needs power. What is this bullshit? Name one other FNAF game with a closable mechanical door that can be closed while there's no power. I'll wait. Oh yeah, it fucking isn't any because that's stupid and doesn't make any fucking sense, now does it? That means that the only thing the power controls is the light to the room we're in. No, not the flashlight, the room light and the computer. That's literally it. What do we even need to reboot anything for? This seems completely pointless now. I could probably talk all day about this, and while I would love to pad out for runtime, I also don't want to piss you guys off, so let's just move on. The final threat introduced on this night is Foxy, who is probably the most useless character in this entire game. And I know that may come to you as a surprise, because every character in this game seems pretty useless. Foxy attacks via the door. And I bet from myself saying that you can already guess exactly how he works and exactly why he's so useless. But in case you aren't able to put those pieces together by yourself, allow me to assist you. Occasionally, Foxy will sprint at your door and you'll have to close it to stop him from eating your butt. However, since the door has no limit to how long it can be closed for and it doesn't open when your power is off, you will probably never see Foxy throughout your entire playthrough. Just occasionally hear him slam on the door. This may make you wonder what I was talking about earlier where I said I was going to abuse this game's kindness. Editor, run it back. You will see how I abuse this game's kindness with this mechanic a bit later. This is that point. Since you still need to have the door open to be able to check on Fredbear 2, you can't literally have it closed the entire night. And I get the funny feeling that with this in mind, the dev thought the possible problem of closing it the entire night would be solved. But guess what, fucker? You couldn't be more wrong. All you have to do is open the door, quickly flash in less than a second to reset Fredbear. Since, contrary to what I've seen other people do in their playthroughs, you don't actually have to hold the flashlight on him until he leaves. You just have to hit him with it for longer than 1 frame. Then all you have to do is immediately close the door again. And if you get good enough at doing this, even if Foxy just so happens to be running at your door in the exact moment you open it, it won't be open for nearly long enough for him to enter the office. So he is quite literally a useless character. Awesome. So even though 2 threats were introduced on this night, it's basically like no threats were introduced at all. I love my life. Speaking of useless, we have the next post-night minigame to talk about. And this time around, it actually does do something a little bit different than the previous ones. Just kidding. I fucking lied like normal. It's just as boring and repetitive as the other post-night minigames we've mentioned. So let's stop wasting our time and just move on to Hour 6. Hour 6, surprisingly, once again introduces something new to the mix. And I'm actually not lying this time. However, with them introducing a new character on this night, it actually means that each hour could have had one thing introduced each, and this game just chose not to do that, which will forever be mind-boggling to me. This new character is Freddy, I think. I have no idea what the fuck it is. When you guys see it, you will have to comment down below on who you think this is supposed to be because I really can't tell. This new threat, who I'll call Freddy, is another window attacker, since we've already established that the door is useless. When he approaches your window, he makes it clear that he has night vision, since turning off the power will not be enough to stop him. What you'll have to do instead is actually a lot less annoying, but hey, at least it's something new. Once he approaches, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on his face until he leaves. leaves. This could have been a good opportunity to turn him into a sort of Candy's 3 fight where he moves his head around and you'll have to follow it, but unfortunately that did not happen and he's just stationary. But again, at least it's something new that actually makes me have to do something else. And from what I could tell during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, he doesn't make any sound cues when he reaches your window, giving you an actual reason to flash the window consistently because up until this point, you didn't have to, and for some reason, you can't even really see him in the window. While I am happy that this game has started to pick up on things to talk about, I do wish they were a bit more interesting so I could talk about them a little bit longer without repeating myself. But sometimes I just can't be that lucky. So once we repair the shit one last time, there's only one more thing to do. And no, it's not another repair post-night minigame, thankfully. Instead, it's just listening to a cutscene that, in all honesty, is pretty cool. So I'll just let you guys sit back and take a look.
Hello, William. It's me. You still recognize me, don't you? Well, you should, I suppose. After all, it was you who left me like this. Why didn't you do anything? Scared of getting the blame. Now standing here, 17 years later, all the blame falls on you. 17 years, William. You left me here for 17 years. Soaking in my own blood. Rotting in our creation. Praying you would return. Now you're here. You've endured what I couldn't. And now you have to live with it. Our legacy.
And there we go. An unknown person walks up to us in a Springlock suit. I can only assume this person is supposed to be Henry since he refers to the suit he's in as our creation and we play as William. But I actually think this is a really interesting twist on the original story. Instead of William dying in the Springlock suit, Henry did, and William just hid his corpse away in a storage unit for 17 years, which is an insanely long time to be conscious and unable to do anything. So I can totally see Henry's frustration here. However, of course, you guys know me. I always find a way to complain about something, and I found something that doesn't make sense during this cutscene to point out. Do you want to tell me how the hell that text was appearing on the screen? How was Henry able to set that up? Did he program that into the monitor and then rehearse the actions he does at the window for 17 years just waiting for William to arrive? That's really the only thing I could think of that would make this make any sense at all. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But with that, that's all Welcome to Fredbear's has to offer. What it really has to do with Fredbear, aside from the fact that there are 2 Fredbears in it, I really don't know. I feel like this game could have done a lot better with a better name, but what do I know? Overall, I think Welcome to Fredbear's looks wonderful and has some nasty and awesome character designs. However, the gameplay loop is just so unfulfilling, boring, and headache-inducing from all of the whiplash that I really just couldn't enjoy it fully. And while I do think that the final cutscene is pretty cool, and I like the way this game changed the original story, I don't quite think that's enough to warrant me recommending this game to people who are looking for an interesting FNAF experience. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is actually one of the coolest FNAF games of all time? Let me know in the comments below. In my Jackie's Forest video, I asked you guys what your favorite hidden gem FNAF game was and why, and my favorite answer was this one by Fish and Chips 123. They said Five Nights at Homer's, and that's a game I don't hear about all too often. I fully intend on covering it at some point in the future. However, I also know that it's incredibly difficult, and that's why I haven't done it quite yet. Unknown FNAF fan games. Five Nights at Freddy's games that not many people have heard about. Obviously, there are plenty of these. This series has been around for almost 12 years, and the fan game community hasn't slowed down one bit on new releases. I personally love looking at random FNAF fan games in my personal time and finding unpopular ones that might be hidden gems. And a few months ago, I received an email from a dev with an early build of their game. I played it and thought it looked interesting, and recently I found out the full version was released. This game in question is called Jackie's Forest, a very interesting FNAF game to say the least, and that's all I'm going to say about it here. Stick around because I have my fair share of things to say about this specimen of a project, so let's waste no more time and dive into the world of Jackie's Forest. Alright, where should we start? If you said anything except night 1 to that question, then I hate to break it to you, you might be just a little bit brain dead, but that's okay. I'm here to help you through this process, so we're going to be starting with night 1. Something I really like about Jackie's Forest is that while the night sections are usually incredibly easy, each of them are completely different. So there's going to be something new to do each night, so developing a strategy is pretty much impossible. So with that out of the way, let's move on to talking about night 1, the threats we have to deal with it inside, and of course, the tools at our disposal. Personally, my favorite part of these videos is talking about the tools at our disposal, and that's funny because I'm straight up lying to you, cuh. Anyways, in the first night section, we're actually in the office. Surprisingly, we actually don't have any cameras, which I'm gonna be honest, kind of makes this entire section really boring. But please, don't click off the video. I promise this game is interesting. I wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't. On the computer in front of us, we're able to look through our files and access a sound system that goes around the entire building. I'm willing to bet you're able to figure out what that means, but if not, allow me to explain it to you. Before I can explain it to you, however, I do need to talk about the first threat that this night introduces, Maurice. And no, not the cool guy from Madagascar. Unfortunately, it's just a disgusting fucking pig-ass, fuck-ass skunk. This motherfucker right here really likes the sound of children. So while most people dress up as monsters for Halloween, Maurice has been dressing up as Jared Fogle. So I guess he also dressed up as a monster, but it's like a little bit different because, like, you know what, it doesn't matter. Maurice will slowly make his way to your office. Shining your flashlight on the door in front of you when he gets close will reveal his rapist homo thug black boy face.
Don't be filming me, brother. You got your rapist homo thug black boys over there.
What the hell are you talking about?
All you have to do when you see him is play a sound from another room in your control panel to lure him away. However, this is where I have to talk about a truly disturbing and butthole ripping mechanic this character has. Do you guys remember the dreaded 1 in 7 from FNAF 3 with Springtrap? Yeah? That mechanic that gives Springtrap a 1 in 7 chance to just ignore the audio lure? Yeah, well, Maurice has that too, except this time around, instead of 1 in 7, it's borderline 1 in 2, because this motherfucker does not move a goddamn inch, and I'm sick of it. The dev really thought, I know how I can make this character work. How about I make his entire mechanic just spamming a button until the player flips heads on a coin flip? Fuck him. But whatever. Once you eventually get lucky enough, Maurice will be dragged away. However, as I'm sure you could have guessed, that is not the only character active on this night, because if it was, this would easily be one of the most piss-poor sections from any FNAF game I've ever covered on this channel. So, who's the other little gooner we have to deal with tonight? Well, that would be Jackie, the character from the title of the game. You know, I always thought it would be pretty funny to make a FNAF game called Five Nights at whatever the fuck the name I choose is, and then never add a character with that name. Like, imagine Five Nights at Ronald's, but there's never a character named Ronald in the game. I don't know, maybe my sense of humor is just retarded, but I think that would be really funny. Anyway. Anyways, moving on to what Jackie actually does. Jackie's goal is to attack you via the window on your left. You can flash your flashlight to that window to check if Jackie is there. However, Jackie will also just make a fuck ton of noise whenever she moves. Once Jackie gets too close for comfort, all you have to do is turn the power to your office off until you hear her leave. And then you're Bing chilling, which is a quote from Martin Luther King, I'm pretty sure. But one last thing to talk about is the fact that this night is not time-based and is instead task-based. So you know what that means? No actual tasks have to be done. You really just have to click a button and wait for a loading bar to fill up and then click another button. So it's really just fucking time-based with a task-based blanket tossed over it. But once you finish the waiting simulator, night 1 will come to a close. But instead of just moving on to night 2, we instead get to talk about a post-night minigame because this game has those too. And trust me, the thought of doing a post-night minigame definitely does not make me want to put a hamster in a sock and start whipping it around like a mace. In this minigame, we need to help a squirrel pack food for a picnic. Seems pretty simple, and simple it is. Our first options for food are a piece of cheese or a fucking boot. Let's think about that, you stupid retarded ass squirrel. Have you ever eaten a boot? No, those go on your fucking feet. Next, she asks us what we can eat with the cheese, and our options are crackers or a fucking broken CD. Dumb bitch, why the fuck? Dumb bitch, why the fuck do you even have a CD that's broken? What could possibly be the point of keeping something like that in your house, hoarder? Throw it away, trailer trash. Next up, we've got to add some fruit. So she asks us what kind of apple we'd like to bring to the picnic. Except instead of the options being Honeycrisp, Granny Smith, Gala, or whatever the fuck, the options are apple or apple core. Jesus Christ, bimbo bitch. An apple core? That was on your list of things to possibly bring? You're wasting my time asking me these dumbass questions. For fuck's sake, what's the next question? Let's just fucking get this over with. Next, we have to bring some dessert, and our options are chocolate or a fucking battery. I bet these bitches aren't even charged either. Just some dead ass batteries for us to shove up our ass. No, we're not eating batteries. Are you a baby? A stupid drooling baby? These questions are so simple, for God's sake. Next up, we get to choose a drink. And the options are an orange juice box or unlabeled broken ass bottle with who the fuck knows what in it. I'm just done, guys. This is making my head hurt. No fucking shit, we're gonna take the juice, you dumb bitch! I swear to God, intelligence is chasing this squirrel, but she's just so much faster. Hopefully she doesn't ask another retarded question because just like Kanye, I don't like retarded questions.
What? Please, next question. Please don't ask me any retarded questions.
Now, where should we pour our drink?
Are we serious right now? Are we actually so dead ass in this moment? Why the fuck would we pour the orange juice into some fuck ass rusty can with sepsis on it or some shit? And why would we pour it into the normal looking mug anyways? It was already in a fucking box with a straw. Guys, Sandy Cheeks has gotten a big downgrade. I hate this squirrel. But we have one last question. Please, don't be something stupid.
Now the most important part. What is the core of all life forms?
Oh. A computer chip or a pulsating brain. I don't really know why the brain is pulsating. They don't really do that. It's not a heart, but I guess I'll be picking that one. Cool. Anyways, then we go to the door to see our friends, but before we can leave, she says this.
Oh, silly me. How could I forget? We're never getting out of here.
So we're never allowed to leave the house. I'm stuck with this brain-dead rodent for the rest of time. Aye, gang. Time to blow my shit clean off. But snapping back to reality, we do see a strange figure in the window. Not sure who that could be, but I'm going to take a guess it's probably this game's antagonist. With the minigame out of the way, we're safe to move on to night 2. With night 2 coming along, we appear to be in a new location. This time around being the maintenance room. Immediately, you'll notice your mother sitting on the table in front of us. Thank God that thing is made out of the incredibly strong material it is, because if it wasn't, you know damn well that bitch would have snapped in the middle like a twig. Anyways, we'll start talking about her in a second. To start, the way we complete this section is just by shredding a bunch of paper using the shredder in front of us. It's literally just another click and wait task-based mechanic, so really just a waiting game. You'll see in the top corner that we have 10 pages to shred. There are 2 characters attacking us this night, just like previously. However, before we talk about them, I want to talk about the fact that your shredder can jam. And if it does, all you have to do is slap it like I do to my kids when they talk a little bit too loud, and it'll go back to working as usual. Next, we have the wall behind us, which has a thermostat on it. Throughout the night, there will be several instances where you will need to change the temperature. Why do we have to do this? I have no fucking idea. Just accept it and do it, you little piglet. If you don't keep the temperature in the right spot, then you'll either die of a heat stroke or get hypothermia and die. Either way, you're dead, so just keep it at a crisp digit. Now we can move on to talking about the characters we have to deal with on this night. And of course, we'll talk about the beastly woman that is your mother first. What she does is incredibly simple. Occasionally, she'll look up at you like she thinks you're the waiter at the restaurant bringing her slop over. All you have to do is stare at her until she snaps out of it, and then you can continue doing what you were doing. Notice how your mom doesn't get up off the table either? That's probably because it's incredibly difficult for her to lift her cankles up. First world problems, am I right? The only other threat on this night is Maurice. Maurice will try to sneak up on you through the door in front of you. Apparently, we're not allowed to just keep the fucking door closed, so we'll have to hold it closed ourselves. Maurice is very quiet, so you'll have to check the door constantly to listen for him. If you hear him there, just hold the door closed and eventually he'll leave and you can go back to doing what you were doing. After shredding all 10 pieces of paper, night 2 will be completed and we can move on to the next post-night minigame, which hopefully this time will not make me want to nya paka and then do something with a train. My Russian homies know what I'm talking about. Come on, high five, hands up. Yeah, come here, bring it in right now. Come close. No. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. All right, so this minigame is just nearly as infuriating as the last one is, but I'm going to try to hold my tongue for as long as I can. In this minigame, we have to help the skunk that looks like a wolf set up a tent. So of course, the first step to setting up a tent is picking the biggest bag of marshmallows we see. Literally, what the fuck is this? You don't need marshmallows to set up a tent, you dirty slut. After picking the biggest bag of marshmallows for the skunk and his fat fuck friends, miraculously, the poles for the tent appear. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big camper myself, but I'm pretty confident that that is not what the poles of a tent look like. Next, we have to pick out enough sleeping bags for everyone that will be sleeping in the tent. All right, yes, that makes sense. Finally, something here that doesn't piss me off. And when we select the correct number, somehow the tarp is placed over the tent instead of the sleeping bags appearing. Fantastic. This makes so much sense and totally isn't about to make a blood vessel in my eye explode. Next, we need to pick a super long rope. Now, at first, I thought we would use these ropes to connect the stakes that we're going to put in the ground. But instead of that, after selecting the longest rope, we just put the stakes in the ground and just punch that rope into the fucking woods or something, because as you can see, they're nowhere to be found. After we finish the tent, all we have to do is wait for the other people to arrive. Except while we're doing that, it appears that Maurice is hit by a fucking semi or something. I have no idea. That's what it sounds like, but we don't really see anything happen. Just this disgusting render of him staring at us. But with that, we can move on to night 3. On night 3, we're stationed backstage. Once again, we do have 2 threats to deal with throughout this section, and a task-based minigame that's just clicking and waiting once again. So let's talk about that first. We're tasked this night with deleting show stage sequences from, I'm assuming, the robot's AI? I'm not really sure, but luckily for us, what we're doing doesn't actually matter all too much. We do, however, have a fuck ton of them to delete, so this night will likely be the longest we've done so far. Anyways, on to the threats on this night. Once again, we have your mother, so let's talk about her. She will just try to walk up on you because she heard you have meat in your pants. Gross. Not the type of meat we're talking about, you fucking buffoon. Once you see her, all you have to do is open up your panel and activate her sound sequence and it'll make her go away. Fun fact, the sound that actually lures her away is just the Burger King jingle, which really goes to show how down bad your mother is for food. She's eating Burger King? I didn't even think she would stoop that low, yet here we are. The other character active on this night is Jackie. You'll be able to see her on stage, which we are directly behind. Occasionally, she will leave this stage, which means in a few seconds, she will approach you. When she does, all you have to do is hold your light on her and she'll start shaking like the cashier at Wendy's when I hold him at gunpoint. And then she'll go back to the stage. But that's really it. While this night is probably the longest so far, I do feel it's probably one of the most underwhelming. But then again, if I'm being honest, the gameplay in this game as a whole is pretty underwhelming. Anyways, let's move on to the next post-night minigame. Just kidding, fuckhead. There is no post-night minigame this time around. Instead, we're just booted to night 4 because we're not allowed to have any fun apparently. So, on night 4, we set up shop in the playroom. Why? Well, apparently we were chased in here by animatronics or something. I'm not really sure why we're here because we're never explicitly told, but we can work with it. Phone guy tells us that he'll try to work on activating the speakers to get the characters to fuck off for long enough for us to escape. But in the meantime, we'll have to defend ourselves from 3 characters instead of just 2, except it really is still pretty much just 2, but I'll explain why in a second. Let's start by talking about Jackie, since she can't seem to leave our nuts alone. Bars. She will attempt to attack us from the playhouse door. When we see her, all we have to do is close the door and she won't be able to see us. You'll also notice that unlike the door from night 2, this door doesn't have to be held closed and can actually be toggled. So what's stopping us from just holding the door closed the entire night? Well, that would be because of your fat fuck mother. That's why. She's programmed to play hide and seek. And while the phone guy says it's to play it with the children, I personally happen to know that it's really because she plays hide and seek with the waitresses and tries to hunt down the food they're carrying out to the tables before they can get it to the customers. I'm no idiot. So yeah, all you have to do to avoid her is just not keep the door closed for too long. So she really doesn't have a mechanic. She's just a consequence to abusing another mechanic. So for that reason, I'm saying she really doesn't count as a character on this night. Who does count as a character is the actual other threat on this night. The skunk Dick. He will try to attack you through the playhouse window. During this night, you're equipped with 15 balls. Why? Because he's a dick, that's why. Whenever you see Maurice appear outside of your window, just throw one of the balls in his direction and that'll distract him for a while. We obviously can't spam these balls since we only have 15 of them, but if we need to, I'm willing to BME Pain Olympics myself to get 2 more. But with that, that's really all we have to do. No task this time since we're surviving, so it's a pretty typical sit and survive kind of night. But with that, this night will come to a close and we can move on to the next post-night minigame. In this minigame, we have to help your fat shit mom bake a cake. She says it's because she invited her friends over for a sleepover, but we all know your mom ate her friends because she was hungry. So she's really just baking this cake for herself, fat ass. To start, we need to grab the butter. Thankfully, it appears this time that there's nothing fucking stupid to piss me off. The only thing that really does so far is the fact that the egg, for some reason, has way more white than yolk. Like, way more than usual. That does not look natural at all. Somebody has got to check the chicken that shot that fucking thing out of its dick. Eggs come out of the dick, right? Next up, we gotta add sugar and mix that shit up like I do with all of the babies in the nursery while the nurses aren't looking. Next, we add the fuck-ass egg and the vanilla extract that smells way better than it tastes. Finally, we mix it again, add in the flour and the milk, and mix it one last time. I've made a few cakes in my time, and I'm pretty confident that we used these ingredients out of order, but fuck it, I don't really care. And while the cake is being baked, we're asked if we can find the TV remote since they're all going to want to watch something. And while I'm sure you can tell by looking at your screen where the remote is, what is much more interesting to do is slowly looking to our right, where we will begin to hear the sound of a dog scratching at the door. Click on the door, and we see this.
Are you lost, little one?
I'm looking for my dog.
A little white one?
Yes. Have you seen him?
Yes. He's here with me. He misses you a lot. I was looking for his owner.
Can I please see him?
Of course. Come with me.
So, this dude in a rabbit mask 100% stabbed the shit out that kid, right? It's not just me thinking that? Okay, good. Just gotta make sure we're all on the same page because, and again, I'm no FNAF expert or anything, but I'm pretty confident he killed the shit out that kid. Anyways, with that, the minigame ends and we can move on to night 5. Night 5 takes place in the boiler room, and this night is something else, let's just say that. And by something else, I mean by far the most anxiety-inducing night so far. Why? Not because of how hard it is, because it really isn't that hard at all, but instead because of how long it takes to make the 2 threats go away. Let's talk about it. The first threat on this night is once again, for like the millionth time, your fat as fuck bouncy ball looking ass mother. She probably heard that it was called the boiler room and assumed that meant that's where they boil the water for all the pasta she's forcing down her throat. Fat pig bitch. Literal pig bitch. When she approaches you from behind, all you have to do is hold the gate closed until she leaves. The other character, Maurice, is who makes my nerves ache like they're exposed and somebody clapped as hard as they could with them in between them. When he appears around from the corner looking at you all seductive like, all you have to do is turn to the massive valves in front of you and turn the smallest one at the bottom right. This will cause a whistling sound to play, which is supposed to scare him away. Except, here's the funny part. Do you remember how during night 1, he had a very large chance to just not fucking listen to the sound cues at all? Yeah? Well, he does that here as well. Isn't that just so fucking awesome? Hell yeah, it is. We love that. This is why this section is so nerve-wracking, because this dude just doesn't ever leave. I love it. Anyways, on to what we actually have to do to complete this section. It's pretty simple. The phone guy will slowly read off different pipe colors in a specific order, and we'll have to turn the corresponding pipes in the boiler room in the correct order to complete the night. Very easy, but not so when the fucking skunk won't hop up off me. Once we get close to turning all the valves, you'll notice that if you turn around, the stupid squirrel will be present instead of your mom. Very weird, since as far as we were aware, she wasn't supposed to be showing up at this time, so why is she here? After finishing all of the valves, the building shakes. Turning around, we'll see the gate is open and the squirrel is gone. And soon after that, the building shakes again and we black out and the credits roll.
Closed down restaurant is burned to the ground by boiler failure. Last night, the restaurant, Jackie's Forest, is burned down to the ground due to an explosion caused by a lack of maintenance of the boilers. The building had been abandoned on January of this year, and it was rumored that the explosion was caused by a lack of proper maintenance from the workers when leaving the building. One casualty was reported, as only one body was found in the remains of the building, crushed by rubble and burned to a crisp. It is theorized that this may have been a burglar or homeless person, as the building wasn't operating and didn't have any workers in it. The 4 animatronic performers the restaurant was known for were found in unusable conditions and will be relocated to a storage facility owned by the company.
And that nets us this game's bad ending. Now I know what you're thinking, and trust me, I'm thinking the same thing. How the fuck do we get a good ending in this game? And please, dear God, tell me it's not that I have to collect a random item in each night. Well, thankfully, no, we don't have to do that. Instead, during the boiler room night, if you just completely fucking ignore what the phone guy says and spam the shit out of all the valves, for some reason, the whole building shakes and we get teleported to a room with an elevator. Entering the elevator, we get the following cutscene.
Eddie, I told you to stay in the boiler room. What are you doing? You're in grave danger. You, can't leave the boiler room, much less go into the elevator while the building is falling apart. You have to turn around and leave now. I don't think you're listening to me. I said turn around. Go back to the boiler room. You are not supposed to be in the storage. Not only is it unsafe, but there is confidential stuff down there. You have to leave now.
Ignoring the fact that voice acting was completely awful, I do find it kind of odd how the phone guy really wanted us to turn back, and why he didn't want us to go to the storage room. But with that, we exit the elevator and do exactly what he told us not to, enter the storage room, which actually acts as this game's 6th night. So, here we are in the storage room, by far the most interesting night in this entire game, mainly because there's more than 2 things for us to do. This night integrates every single character we've seen so far, alongside a completely new threat. Let's quickly go over the tools at our disposal first. To start, this is the first night in the game with actual cameras. However, you want to hear something really funny? They're completely useless. So the only thing I'm going to say about them is that the character renders in these cameras are actually pretty creepy for what it's worth. So, let's start going down the list of characters on this night and exactly what they do. We'll start with Jackie. Her whole goal is to attack your right door. You won't be able to see her there unless you flash your light in the doorway. If she's there, simply close the door until she leaves. Simple sugar. Maurice is much the same, except he attacks your left door, and instead of closing the door, you'll have to wear a mask you somehow pulled out of your ass, since as you can clearly see, the lever to the door is fucking shattered. The next character to talk about is your pig bitch of a mother. She will try to attack the giant hallway in front of you. When you see her there, all you have to do is pull down the massive gate and she won't be able to get in. As you can probably tell, just because there's more characters in this night in no way means that this game gets any bit harder than it has been. But finally, we can talk about the brand new character on this night. I don't know its name because we're not told, but I'm just gonna call it the Prototype, since I bet that's how uncreative its actual name is. Hey, recording Dxtr here. I went into the custom night. Its name is Nulls, so Yeah, just keep that in mind. I'm gonna keep reading it as prototype since that's how I wrote it, and I'm lazy, but just know. It's nulls. The prototype has 2 ways to attack you, your left door and the hallway in front of you. For both instances of attack, all you have to do is put your mask on and it'll go away. This night is really fucking boring, guys, I can't lie. But with that, just survive until 6 a.m., which is much shorter than most FNAF games, and we get a new newspaper clipping.
Engineer arrested after evidence is released by fire survivor in Jackie's Forest restaurant. Last night, the restaurant Jackie's Forest burned down to the ground after an explosion caused by boiler failure. The failure was caused by Eddie Garcia, a worker who was misinstructed by Harvey Turner, the engineer of the restaurant, who is being charged with attempted murder and obstruction of justice after it was revealed by Garcia that Turner had sent him to destroy incriminating evidence from the building. Garcia was able to survive and escape the fire and is being sentenced to home arrest for complicity, while Turner will be kept in custody while the case is investigated. Some evidence links him to 2 local cases, but nothing is confirmed yet. The restaurant had closed in January of this year, rumored to be because of the Maddie Denton case, a 7-year-old girl who went missing in the restaurant on September of last year.
And with that, we get the good ending. As far as I'm aware, no more lore as to what the fuck is going on with the weird dude or the dead dog or the dead kid, so I'm just gonna leave it and pretend like it doesn't exist. I mean, I guess if you want to analyze it quickly from that newspaper clipping, it's kind of hinted that Turner, or the phone guy, is the one that killed the girl and the dog or something. I don't fucking know. But with that, that's all Jackie's Forest has to offer. Like I said, I was actually sent a demo of this game a few months ago by the devs, which only had the first 2 nights. And I remember thinking that this game could do something pretty cool if they polished it up a bit. And while from the demo I got, the game has definitely gotten a small upgrade, I figured I should give it a white video the moment I saw the full version was released. Overall, Jackie's Forest tries to do a lot of things, but I personally think it falls short in all of them. I don't think it does a very good job at telling its story, considering I was literally able to piece together pretty much none of it. I know there's at least 1 dead kid and a dog and some weird stranger guy that probably killed some kids, but who is he? What does the prototype thing have to do with anything? And who are any of the characters besides our own and the phone guy? That's just completely unknown to me. And on top of that, while each night is unique and I do really like that, I just feel like each night could have had something more. Because as this game stands, while I do like the character designs, I do think that those are the only memorable parts of this game. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Or do you think this is actually one of the most interesting FNAF games you've ever seen? Let me know in the comments below. In my Midnight at Star Stage video, I asked you guys what you thought was the best FNAF fan series ever made and why. And my favorite answer was this one by Brownie Zorua. They said Five Nights at Candy's. And while I personally don't really care for that series myself, I can't deny how much nostalgia that game has over everyone in this community. That cannot be ignored. Uniqueness in FNAF games. Something that isn't the most common thing in the world. I'm sure as FNAF players, we can all agree that something interesting that we've never seen before coming around is something we don't see all too often. But you better believe we suck it up whenever we get the chance to sink our big meaty claws into it. The game we'll be talking about today is a bit older. Being created 5 years ago, I'm honestly surprised I had never heard of it before, as it truly is one of the most unique FNAF fan games I've ever talked about on this channel, with a unique art style, interesting yet incredibly confusing story, and a mixture of a bunch of different game styles and mechanics. Join me today as we dive into the intricately crafted world of the Freddy Files. The Freddy Files is actually broken up into chapters instead of nights, and from the sounds of it, I'm pretty sure that each chapter of the game is 1 hour of the one night that takes place during this game. Upon starting the game, we're greeted to an opening cutscene. Our character is on the phone with 911, saying that while working, the door to the building closed and locked itself so he can't get out. The dispatcher said the police are on their way, but it will take several hours for them to get there, which, by the way, is bullshit. This restaurant is presumably in a city, or at least a town, so how is it going to take the police hours to get there? Regardless, we still have to finish our shift anyways, so we figure it's not a big deal. The dispatcher makes a point to us to not enter any unauthorized areas, which I personally find weird. And with that, we're spat into the first chapter where we're greeted with some exposition. Fazbear Entertainment started their first business with Fredbear's Family Diner, a successful business that took over the market for 5 years. However, A few months later, a child was known to be murdered by the mascot, Fredbear. Later, 4 other children went missing during the incident as well. The police searched the entire establishment for any signs of the children, but to no avail. The co-worker of the diner did not negotiate either. The case was then closed after a second failed search, April 26th, 1983. And with that, we're ready to begin the chapter. And this is where you'll notice this game is not your typical FNAF game, which is exactly why I wanted to cover it. This game, while yes, has a survival system like Five Nights at Freddy's, it's more of a top-down free roam than anything else. Whoa, what the fuck? Whoa. Point of this first chapter is to unlock a door that we're not supposed to unlock. It's an unauthorized area, so I have no idea why we're doing this despite the dispatcher literally just telling us not to. This chapter serves as an escape room, which I actually really like. And of course, there are some threats that are trying to stop us from completing it. So let's talk about those 2 guys first. The first threat introduced in this chapter is Golden Freddy. His mechanic is very simple. As you can see, we are equipped with a flashlight and a fear meter. If our flashlight is off, our fear meter will slowly increase. With the light on, the fear will go back down. So keeping this light on is obviously something we're going to want to do. Golden Freddy directly counters that. He's a ghost character that moves through walls, and he's very fast. If you ever see Golden Freddy near you, you need to shut off your flashlight and make sure he doesn't run into you by dodging out of the way. If he touches you, you're obviously dead. Something I do want to note that I don't really like about this section, and Golden Freddy specifically, there is a lot of reading in this game, mainly in the form of just interacting with things. And Golden Freddy will still be active while you're reading something, and you can't turn your flashlight on or off while you have a dialogue box up. So be prepared to die very frequently because of poor timings like this. What on earth? It's a key. Whatever hide it in here. Doesn't open the door. But fuck, dude! Can't do that while I'm fucking reading. The second threat introduced here is Shadow Freddy.
I'm Shadow Freddy, I'm so awesome and black. I'm black. I got white eyes, I'm black, I'm Shadow Freddy.
Shadow Freddy, while being awesome and black, is a much more stressful character to deal with as he's a lot more random. Occasionally, you will hear him growl. When you do, you'll notice that your fear will start increasing even if your flashlight is on. This signals to you that you need to go find him somewhere in the building that he'll teleport to at random. When you find him, all you need to do is hold your flashlight on him and he'll go away, wherein your fear will start to decrease again. Now, these 2 together, in all honesty, are not that difficult to deal with. So let's talk about what exactly we have to do to open that stuck door. To start, near the stage you'll find a vent. Interacting with it will tell you that something is inside, but you can't reach it. Moving down to the kitchen, inside you'll find a safe that requires a code that we don't have. Just outside of the kitchen are some random planks and sticks for some reason. Using one of the sticks, we can go back over to the vent and fish out the item, which we find is a key. This key, unfortunately, doesn't unlock the door, but it does unlock something else. Moving down to the office, inside there is a locked box. Using the key we got from the vent, we can open it. Inside, there are several animatronic heads, but more importantly, there's a remote. Using this remote, we can turn on the monitor in our office, which will then display the code to the safe. Now, obviously, I could ask several questions as to why things are happening the way they are. Why was there wood on the floor? Why was there a key in a vent? Why was the remote to the TV locked in a box? Why does the TV just have the code to a safe? But this is clearly just a puzzle escape room game, so weird shit like this is just kind of par for the course. Continuing, now knowing the code, we input it into the safe and get a hammer. Using this hammer, we figure we can break the locked door down, so we head over to do exactly that. And that's when we're thrown into a much more FNAF feeling minigame. During this minigame, we obviously have to break down the door. However, Golden Freddy will be attacking us the entire time. While we pound on the door, he will slowly approach us from behind to beat on our bottom. Occasionally, we'll have to turn around and hold our flashlight on him to make him back up into the darkness. I personally found that pounding on the door 15 times is the most you can do to stay safe without Golden Freddy golden showering you. Do this enough times and the door will open, and we see the following cutscene. So yeah, we stumble upon the body of 3 of the dead children. Truly gruesome. However, I also have to ask why there quite literally is nothing inside of this massive room. Who knows? We reflect on what we saw and realize that 4 kids went missing, yet we only saw 3. Before we can think about it more, we hear the rest of the characters in the building activate. And knowing our lives are about to get a lot more difficult, we can move on to Chapter 2. Chapter 2 moves much more into a typical FNAF game. When we load in, we find ourselves in an office. We know from the last chapter that all of the characters have activated, so now we have to hunker down and defend ourselves. So let's go over the tools at our disposal. To start, if we turn around, we'll find our cameras. They're just cameras. Nothing crazy to talk about here. Turning back in front of us is where things start to matter. To start, you'll notice on the left and right doors, we'll be able to set off an alarm system. When you use these alarms, your computer's RAM will increase. Now, unlike actual computer RAM, once you stop using the alarm, the RAM usage will not go back down, which again, doesn't make any sense because that's not how RAM works, but whatever. What you have to do is manually delete the RAM by holding the delete RAM button on your monitor. That doesn't really make sense, but it's clear the dev isn't very tech savvy, but that's okay. Also on our monitor are 2 more alarms, Alarm 15 and Alarm 24. We're not going to worry about Alarm 24 right now. Alarm 15 is an alarm that plays directly in front of you. The phone guide describes this area of the building as outside, so I'm imagining it's literally a window to outside of the building. You just can't tell because it's dark as fuck. Same with the other 2 alarms, it will also increase your RAM usage. Now let's talk about the threats this chapter introduces. Fun fact, there's 3 of them: Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. I'm going to talk about Bonnie and Chica at the same time since they do the exact same thing. They will try to make it to either of your doors respectively. Bonnie attacks the left, Chica attacks the right. Once they enter your office, they will quite literally be directly in your fucking face, with their rank-ass breath searing your nose hairs. All you have to do is hold the alarm on whichever side they went to, and they will quickly leave. But there is one other path they both can take as well, and that's to the window in front of you. When they're out there, play Alarm 15, and they will return right to outside of your door, where they will then soon enter your office, giving you little time to delete RAM between those moments. Freddy is the final threat introduced in this chapter, and he works much the same as Bonnie and Chica, with one major change that honestly makes him easier than the other 2 we've talked about already. When he enters your office, he'll stand directly in front of you, so you can actually play the alarm on either side and he will leave. The only other change he has from Bonnie and Chica is that you have to play the alarm on him for a lot longer. Just like them, he can also go to the window, but the same rules apply to him. Chapter 2 is really just an introduction night, and despite the fact that you can see Foxy on stage, he never activates, which really means you never have to check the cameras throughout this entire chapter. And on top of that, since Foxy didn't activate and we never used Alarm 24, something tells me that Chapter 3 will also be taking place in this office, so let's move on to that. So, turns out we're actually not on to Chapter 3 quite yet. If you remember at the start of Chapter 2, we saw 12 a.m. Well, at the beginning of this next section, we see 1 a.m., which would mean we're still currently in Chapter 2. This hour is back to the top-down gameplay we saw in Chapter 1. This time around, we see our character get absolutely fucking bodied by some random guy. Oh my god, oh dear lord. Oh, he's dead. Oh, he's dead as fuck. He's dead as disco, bro. Dead as shit. He's Dunyan rings. In the note we get on this night, he says he kidnapped us to play a game, and we'll be playing with some minions. Fantastic. The gameplay of this night has us unlocking a door, which takes forever. Seriously, look at this. Oh my god. Really? So yeah. That's a lot of fun. While this is happening, we'll have to constantly be checking the doors to our left and our right. Going up to them, we can listen for growling. If we hear growling, all we have to do is run to the closet in the middle of the office and hide until they go away. However, if we stay in the closet for too long, we'll be killed by another character. Why am I getting raped from all angles today, huh? After we fully unlock the door, I fully expected this section to come to an end, but no. Not quite. Instead, we get thrown into a fucking Shadow Freddy boss fight. What the fuck? Whoa. What the fuck? Boss. And unironically, this boss fight is better than the only boss fight in Heartbound. But let's be honest, that's not very hard to beat. You'll have to dodge these little colored things, not really sure what the hell they're supposed to be, and then he'll start throwing pizzas at you, which are super not fun to dodge. These stupid pizzas were actually the only thing I took damage to in my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. And finally, he drops these things. I don't know what they are. At first I thought olives, but then I thought about it and that doesn't make any sense. Comment down below if you know what these things are. But after you complete the fight, you'll find the body of the child who supposedly possessed Freddy, and he bleeds on the floor, which would imply to me that the kid was alive and we just killed the fucking child. If that's the case, does that mean we're clinically insane? Maybe so. We learned that we were never allowed to tell the police about the missing kids because he brought us here? Or something. I'm not totally sure why we can't tell the police. My only guess is something along the lines of it'll look like we killed them all. I'm not really sure at the moment, but I'm sure we'll learn plenty more. For now, let's continue. Now we move on to the next section of this game. We're still in chapter 2, except now it's 1:30 a.m. That's right, we're really splitting this game up into as many pieces as we can, and I'm all for it. Unfortunately, there's literally nothing interesting for me to talk about during this section. We're back in the office area, except literally nothing has changed since the first time we played this. Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica move slightly faster, but nothing new is actually introduced. So let's move on to 2 a.m. 2 a.m. actually marks the beginning of Chapter 3, which means we have something interesting to talk about. We learn that the building got shut down due to it being disgusting as fuck. Food all over the floor, little kid throw up down the backs of the robots, all the nasty shit. During this section, we play as a temporary janitor, so I guess we just have all the fucking jobs now, huh? Something you'll notice about this night as we talk about it is that even though, yes, we are a janitor, literally no cleaning happens whatsoever. Instead, all we do is fix a fucking elevator. As that would suggest, this section of the game takes place in an elevator. Our goal is to get to floor 5, but in order to do that, we first have to connect each floor to like a mainframe or something. I have no fucking idea, just roll with it. All this section consists of is basically looking at this fucking screen until this bar makes it to this square. Once it does, press the green button on the elevator to move to the next floor. Of course, it's not just that, as there is a threat trying to eat our butts the entire time. That threat being Withered Bonnie. I'm not going to dive into the possible reason as to why we see normal Bonnie during the next sections and Withered Bonnie now. Maybe we're not playing as the same character, maybe this section takes place during a different time, or fuck it, maybe Bonnie just took his fucking face off. Who really cares? While you're connecting the elevator, Bonnie will slowly get closer and closer to you. Once he gets too close, all you have to do is close the elevator door until you hear him back off. Then go back to doing what you were doing. While the door is closed, it will drain power, but considering you only have to close the door on Bonnie for like 4 seconds, there is literally no way you're running out of power during this section. After reaching floor 5, we get a cutscene. Our character walks past an assembly line and finds the puppet's gift box. On it, we find a note that tells us to meet in the alley of Fredbear's Family Diner, signed by the puppet herself. What the fuck is going on? Why did the puppet leave this note here? Why did she know that we were going to be here? And why not just meet me to talk to me at this place since you already know I would be here? Who knows? But I'm sure we'll find out as we continue. Speaking of, let's do that. Here we are, back into the office section of the game, where this time Foxy is actually finally activated. Really should have happened last night, but we'll roll with it. Let's talk about what he does, as even though he is super basic, he's still the most interesting of the characters so far. Foxy can attack both your left and right door, much like Freddy, except Foxy actually takes advantage and turns it into an actual mechanic, unlike Freddy. Foxy too can appear at your window, except the main difference with him is that we're told he can only hear the frequency of alarm 24. So finally, we have a use for this alarm. It works in the exact same way as alarm 15 and will just send him back. The real difference with Foxy is how he attacks your door. Unlike every other character, he won't ever enter your office, so he finally gives our camera a use after 2 nights of never needing to turn around. You'll have to watch the cameras next to your office to tell which side Foxy is going to attack. When you see him enter either one of these cameras, you'll have to use the alarm on that side of the office and he'll leave. However, you may have noticed something weird when I explained that, and I'm thinking the same thing. The alarm that plays when you use it on the doors is the exact same alarm as alarm 15, yet it scares away Foxy. But the phone guy told us that Foxy can't hear alarm 15, so like, what the fuck is even going on? This makes no sense whatsoever. Just wanted to point out that little inconsistency. There's nothing else to talk about on this night, so we can move on to the next chapter. Chapter 4 puts us back into the top-down 8-bit minigame style, something I was pretty excited to see. This section acts kind of like a puzzle section, and I say kind of because there's also quite a bit that isn't puzzles. To start, all we have to do is push 2 levers, getting scared as fuck by a shadow at the same time.
Maybe I can open this.
Oh no, that opened up this side, okay. Oh my god! What the fuck was that? Then we have to press 2 buttons to open a gate. But I'm not kidding you, this is quite possibly one of the tightest timings I've ever seen in my life. Pressing these 2 buttons on the timer you have to press them in is borderline frame perfect. Really made my penis hurt trying to pull this off. However, after doing so, it opens another gate with some levers to pull a certain number of times to open another gate. To figure out the code, we have to do some basic mental math. But for someone like me who sucks ass at mental math, this part took me much longer to beat than it should have, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Afterwards, we continue and have to do another even more bullshit double button press timing. This one is absolutely brutal. I can't even lie to you.
Got it. Fucking A. That's ass.
That opens another gate and we find the marionette. Upon walking closely, we start a conversation. We learn that we're playing as Henry, as the puppet refers to us as her father. There's a whole lot of fucking yapping here, but she basically tells him that William is killing kids again and that a new establishment is opening. The plan is to tamper with the animatronics so that Michael then tampers with them, causing them to attack William, and then William will go to take them apart, wherein he'll be forced into the suit and die, and then we'll burn down the building with everyone inside. So really just the FNAF storyline, but that's our plan. Finally, we're thrown into a midnight motorist minigame for some reason. I'm really not sure why, but it's long as fuck. And from what I could see, there was no secret way to go to juniors like there is in the original. We end by getting some dialogue from Henry and nervous about what he should do and what will happen if he goes along with the plan. And with that, we move on to the next night section that's probably going to make me fall asleep. With 3:30 rolling around, it's time for us to move on to the next night section. And believe it or not, there's actually something new that gets added this time around. That being Golden Freddy. I'm pretty sure is who this is, at least. We get a phone call from Golden Freddy this time around. He says he loves playing with us. So it seems that the atmosphere has taken an unfortunate sexual turn, but we have to roll with it. Golden Freddy's mechanic is so simple, yet easily the most annoying one we've seen yet. All he'll do is at random appear right in front of you. When he does, all you need to do is turn around and he'll leave. You might be wondering how that would ever become a challenge under any circumstance. Well, that's where we need to start talking about the rest of the character's AI being ramped up to the fucking moon during this section, because it's insane. The rest of the characters during this night move around so quickly and will be in your office almost at all times, meaning that your RAM usage is going to be through the roof for the first time throughout your playthrough. And who's going to be there to interrupt you while trying to get the animatronics out of your office and trying to get your RAM down? Golden Freddy will be there. That's who, at all times, to make sure your blood is boiling as much as possible. No 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 no. Funny, go away, bro! I'm getting double teamed. I'm getting double teamed. I'm getting double teamed. I'm getting double teamed. Fuck! 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 Oh my god, 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 oh my fucking god. Oh my god, my RAM is so fucking high. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, fuck. But that's really all this section has to offer. Really did a 180 in terms of difficulty, and I like it a lot considering the other sections of this game have been so piss easy I was able to film them half asleep. Chapter 5 gets a little confusing as I started to become aware that we are likely switching between the POVs of 2 different characters and have been throughout the game. It seems like we know we've been playing as Henry several times, and we're doing so during this section as well. But if we're playing as Henry during this section, then it must mean we're not playing as Henry during the repeating night sections. To start, this night begins with a note telling us that Fazbear's is closing after the rumors about the missing children. We all know how this goes. What gets weird is that during this section, which keep in mind is 5 a.m. to 5:30 a.m., a.m., we have to play through an entire night from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., which means that this section of the game has to have happened at a different time. We know that Henry's plan is to plant sound chips in the robots so that Michael tampers with them. Then he'll fire Michael. William will dismantle the robots and then free them or something. I don't know, it's a bit confusing, and I'm more than a bit dumb. Let's actually talk about what we have to do during this section and why I actually shouldn't be explaining it to you because I'm not even sure what I did. Basically, we have 2 doors to our left and right that we can close. Doing so drains our power. Throughout this night, all of the 4 characters will attempt to get into our office to void us of our insides, which is just not something we're looking forward to. When they get to the door, you'll hear fast footsteps. All you have to do is hold the door closed until you hear slow footsteps. However, if that's all you'll do, the characters will be at your door too frequently and you'll run out of power. So that's where the PC in front of us comes in handy. Using it, we can do 2 things. The first is scanning the entire building to see where the threats are at, and the second is an audio lure that you can play in any room. Let me be completely open and honest with you guys right here. I have no fucking idea the proper way to use these lures. Every time you do an action on the PC, you have to wait 6 seconds for the tools to refresh. At first, I thought I should spam lure one central area to get everyone in one spot and keep them there. But apparently, that's bad, as I was told from a tip after dying. So then, I'm not gonna lie, I just started spamming the audio lure all through a bunch of different rooms and random areas, and doing that just worked. Oh, hey, look at that. That was kinda tough. I don't know what the fuck that was. I don't know what I was doing with the audio lure. I really wish I could provide a strategy here, but I really can't. I'm guessing I just got lucky because there was literally no critical thinking coming from my head during this section. But with that, surviving until 6 a.m. will complete this half-hour section of the overall game. Again, I said this part is confusing as fuck. Henry mentions the plan to kill William is almost ready, and at least I'm pretty sure William's saying it because this cutscene starts with I am. But at the same time, a few lines later, the person talks about finding more pages, which sounds like something our non-Henry player was doing, so I literally have no fucking idea what's going on. I'm really just here to talk about the gameplay, so let's do that instead and continue. Moving on to 4:30, we've got yet another typical night section to talk about. And I can't lie to you, not much to say here. No new threats are added, but holy shit, do the threats that already exist really start to ramp up. The RNG in this section really starts to show on this night, as I would have a character at my window, at my door, down my pants, in my dick pretty much constantly, which gave me almost no time to ever delete the RAM. It took me only 2 attempts to beat this section, but the insane contrast between how aggressive they were on the first attempt versus the second is drastic and should not be overlooked. This was some crazy bullshit, but once again, nothing new is actually introduced, so we can move on to Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is by far probably the most interesting one we've talked about so far. It begins with a cutscene, one that should be all too familiar to us as FNAF fans. So just for you guys, fuck talking about it, let's take a look at it together.
So, this is it. It's time to end what William has done. It's time to end their suffering. Those little souls trapped in this labyrinth. I've gathered them up in here, and I can finally destroy them. I've found the ones that have yet to be destroyed and set free. For instance, those little children, the ones that come together as a group on a daily basis. I've always wanted to see them every single day. They'd always brighten up the atmosphere in Circus Baby's Pizza World. Every day, they'd come to play with all of the animatronics. Every employee, employer, and manager knew the name of those 3. But ever since William made his poor design choices, things were never going in the right direction for them. On the very next day, they all disappeared. I'd never realized that William could create such abominations. I realized there was a reason why Funtime Freddy had a huge tank. It was quite obvious. And no wonder the other 2 were always active every now and then. Not to mention Circus Baby. She was brought outside on the first day and was forced to stay inside the next day. It's such a misery, to be honest. I wasn't the only one who saw Circus Baby capture Elizabeth. Now, her soul is trapped inside of her. I wouldn't forget my daughter as well. No more shall I let her suffer as one of William's creations. This place is where everything shall end. A maze with no exit. A labyrinth with no prize. They don't even realize they are trapped. For some of them, I believe there is peace and perhaps more. Although, for you, William, the darkest pit of hell is ready to swallow you whole. You will keep burning and burning along with the creations of your own. This is where the story ends. For my daughter, the other innocent children, and William, this ends for all of us. End communication.
God, it doesn't matter how many times I hear the FNAF 6 Henry speech. Every single time I hear it, it gives me chills. Easily one of the best monologues in gaming history. Right up there with the definition of insanity speech from Voss. Try to find a better speech. I fucking dare you. Anyways, on to what we actually have to do during this section after that cutscene. Well, it's very weird, to say the least. In it, we play as the puppet, wandering through a dark forest. Scattered around are the 5 souls of the missing children, each with a color above their head. We know that at this point, we're playing as Charlie, Henry's daughter, obviously. After a bit of searching, we're told to find all of the magic to set them free. Hidden around the forest are several weird magic orbs. After collecting 3, we can begin to set the children free. We do so by finding 5 colored cupcakes around the map, and taking each colored cupcake to its respective colored child. Pause. That sounds terrible. Anyways, after doing so, we hear from Henry again. He thanks his daughter for saving the children, boasts about William finally being gone. He mentions he has all the Freddy files.
He said it! He said it!
And with that, we're ready to move on to the final part of our shift, wherein after we should hopefully have the cops arrive. Because if you recall, that's literally the first thing we did. Call the police, and they're somehow still not here yet, which is completely crazy, I will add. But who cares? Let's move on to the final shift. And here we are at the final chapter of the game. What's new to talk about in this final section? A cool final boss fight night? No, it's nothing new. Same shit, different day, really. But what is interesting is what happens afterwards. Henry arrives at some door. I assume it's the door to the building. He says way too much shit nobody cares about. Like deadass, he talks for so fucking long. Bro just recaps the whole game. It was so fucking boring, I'm not even gonna put you guys through it. Point is, he collected all the Freddy files, which helped him remember what William did or something, and now William's dead. Cool. Children are free. Great. Now all we have left to do is stop Fazbear Entertainment from ever coming back. How is he going to do that? Well, lucky us, that's not our fucking problem to figure out, because Henry opens the doors and the credits roll and the Freddy files comes to a close. Wait. Hold up. Freeze frame. What about the cops? Do we not remember that this game began with a phone call to the police? Where the fuck are they? Were we Henry the entire time? Or are we jumping back and forth between 2 people? And if we were Henry the entire time, where the fuck are the cops? Why did we call them if we ended up leaving the building by ourselves anyways? What the fuck is going on? Also, if that wasn't a big enough of a fuck you, this game actually still isn't done. After the credits finish rolling, the fucking creator of the game starts talking to us and goes on a whole fucking monologue about having to do a whole bunch of shit to do something. I have no fucking idea. I was hardly paying attention. Basically, we have to go back to an earlier chapter with a locked door, find a key, open the door, but not before going to another chapter where we typed in a code and instead type in his name. Whose name? I have no fucking clue. Then open the door, go to another chapter to a room that we never did anything in, find another key or something, then play 4 minigames in the extras menu, but do something specific in them to find a key in all 4, then go to the survival mode of the game, which isn't even made, by the way. Click the bottom of the screen on an invisible fucking button, then you're teleported to a room with 4 keyholes and a door, put the 4 keys from the minigame in the holes, unlock the door, and then fucking something happens. Do I have any idea what happens? No, not at all. Well, luckily for us, I found a guy that actually did it. Shout out to Tanzi Natali for actually doing all this bullshit so that I didn't have to. Basically, there's a final boss fight with a character named Null, and it's just like a bullet hell except shitty. Then the creator talks to us again. Apparently, the creator of the game inserted himself into the game as the Red Freddy, who apparently isn't even Golden Freddy. It's just the fucking developer. He says he can like change the AI of everything or something. Guys, I'm gonna be so honest, I just don't fucking give a shit. If you guys are curious as to what happened after the Null fight, go watch Tonsi's video about it. Holy shit, I just don't fucking care. But that's all the Freddy Files has to offer. Overall, I do think this game is actually pretty cool. I love the idea of mixing in night sections with the little mini games, and even though lore-wise this game is a confusing clusterfuck, I think from a gameplay standpoint, it was still pretty cool. Even if the gameplay is easy as fuck, at least there's something different to do all the time. Also, the pixel art style is super charming, so that's nice too. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game actually has no flaws whatsoever and is actually the best FNAF experience ever made? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF Showtime video, I asked you guys what your favorite mechanic from any FNAF fan game was and why, and my favorite answer was this one by Rat Waffles. They said the ghost mechanic from Juniors, and I have to agree. I'm a hardcore Juniors glazer, I can't even lie, and you can see my review of it on this channel after this video. The lore of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games, something I'm typically not interested in. However, occasionally a fan game will come around that actually catches my attention, and the game we'll be covering today is one of those games. However, I actually didn't care about the story at all until I got to the third game. That's right, the game we'll be talking about today is a big one. 3 games in total to go over, and I promise there will be plenty of salt along the way. Join me today as we dive into the ups and downs of Five Nights at Maggie's. Maggie's doesn't throw us into a story right away, instead just starting how the original FNAF begins, with a newspaper of a job notice for a security guard. We take the job, not knowing who our character is, and jump right into the first night, where we can already talk about a game mechanic choice that I can't quite wrap my head around. First, let's talk about the office. It's so incredibly simple that it is somehow more basic than the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 office. You have 2 directions you can turn. One direction has the cameras, and the other side has a single door. Now let's talk about the mechanic that makes me question what the developer was thinking. How do you think the camera system operates? Maybe a camera map with buttons, maybe using the arrow keys to surf through the cameras. All wrong. You have to use the number keys on your keyboard. I have to use the number keys? Really? That's awful. I actually have to use, I can't touch the buttons with my mouse. Let me tell you why this is so awkward. Because of your flashlight. Your flashlight is used to flash the doorway behind you and the vent underneath your desk. Your flashlight is controlled by your control key, and of course, because it's a FNAF game, you have to use your mouse for everything. So you have one hand to use 8 of your number keys and the control key. This leads to an overall awkward controlling experience, but that could just be a nitpick. It was just the first thing I noticed. Now, to talk about the characters that Night 1 introduces. Let's start with the main character herself, Maggie. Maggie is as basic as you can get in this game. Spoiler alert, all of these characters are basic. Maggie will move around the cameras and eventually make her way to your door. When she's there, all you have to do is hold the door closed until you hear her leave. This is where you'll notice something interesting about this game. There is no power system in this game. And if you think that it will be balanced somewhere else so that this generosity isn't easily abused, you would be wrong. You can hold the door closed the entire night. But we'll talk about the strategy of this game a bit later. The next character introduced on this night is Lola. Lola does the exact same thing as Maggie in the exact same way. Kinda got you got an hourglass going. Lola is the best. In bed? What is wrong with me? She even goes through the exact same cameras and is also dealt with by using the doors. Something you'll notice about later nights is that Maggie or Lola is pretty much consistently in your hallway at all times, leading to you needing to hold the door closed pretty much the entire night, forcing you to look at this stupid fucking John McAdam in the fucking eyes. The final character introduced on Night 1 is Chanchy, the fat-ass pig, aka your mom. Chansey has a random chance to appear on any camera whenever you switch to one, acting exactly as Phantom Chica. If you look at him for too long, he will fuck your shit up like my buddy fucks up grilled cheese sandwiches. And let me tell you, that guy eats the shit out of grilled cheese sandwiches. However, once we talk about the ultimate strategy a bit later, you'll quickly learn how Chansey will pretty much never be a problem. Overall, if you know how to use your noggin a little bit, you may notice that all three of these characters can be dealt with by just holding the door closed the entire night and never doing anything. Hold your left click down, take a nap for 6 minutes, and then we'll start talking about Night 2. Night 2 introduces the final two characters this game has to offer. That's right guys, it's about to get crazy. Not really, but let's talk about these two new assholes. Let's begin with Hank. Hank will try to enter the vent underneath your desk. Once he's there, he'll make a sound cue. Simply look under your desk and flash him with your light and he'll go away. However, there is a chance he will stay in the vent instead of going back to the stage, except the side effect is he will still make a sound cue when you have to flash him again, so this really isn't as scary as it sounds. Flower is the other character added on this night, and guys, come in real close for me. Would you believe me if I told you Flower was exactly the same as Hank? Well, guess what? She is. Quite literally the exact same mechanic. So nothing too much you'll have to worry about. There you go. That's every character in the game. Just kidding. I actually lied to you. There is one final character we have to talk about, except here's the thing. I don't know its name. I think it's Guppy, but that could be entirely wrong. Guppy appears on the cameras in camera 3. Guppy acts as this game's Foxy. You will have to watch him on the cameras to prevent him from moving. If he gets up and leaves, guess what? Dead. Ass souffle. However, since every main night after this one doesn't add anything new, it's time we talk about this game's disgustingly broken strategy. So, stay focused because it's super complicated. Basically, once the night starts, instantly turn to camera 3 to stall Guppy. Then turn around and hold the door closed, even if nobody is there. If at any point you hear a vent noise, quickly turn around and flash the vent, then turn back around and hold the door closed again. There you go. You've just beat the game. This strategy successfully stalls Guppy, ignores Chansey since you're never switching cameras, keeping the doors closed long enough that nobody will ever get in, and will handle the vent animatronics more than adequately. Nights 2, 3, 4, and 5 can all be handled using this strategy. This is by far this game's biggest downside. It is so easy that it's boring. The majority of this game is spent staring at this stupid fucker's face. I hate this guy's fucking smile. Look at this piece of shit. Ugly ass, fuck ass boy. John McAdams. More like John McFat-ums. Am I right or am I right? Yeah, I'm right, I know. You guys can laugh. No, you can laugh, it's okay. It's okay, I know I'm funny, it's okay. Now, you might have noticed I mentioned that strategy only works up to night 5, and that's because I lied again. There's another character we have to talk about that's integrated on night 6. I don't know his actual name, and fuck you, I'm just gonna call him Porky since that's what I called him in my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Porky Pig acts as this game's final boss character. Night 6 is impossible. Kind of. Porky Pig can attack both your door and your vent. He also moves at the speed of fucking sound. He will go from your door to your vent in the span of 2 seconds. Now, here's where it gets impossible, and the funny story that goes along with this. So, here's the hilarious extra mechanic with Porky. He can actually be at your door and in your vent at the exact same time. If he's at your door and you close it, you will hear him in your vent. Not there's a chance. No, you will hear him attack your vent. So you might think you should flash him in the vent. So you go to turn around. But the moment you let go of your door, you get fucked. What the fuck, dude? What the fuck is that? I hear the vent noise. I did not hear noise hearing him enter the hall. He's in the hall. If I open the fucking door, it doesn't matter where he is in the hall, he just fucking kills me. Since once again, he will be in both places at the same time. Dxtr, that doesn't sound very fun at all. Well, listen to this. Apparently, I played a version of the game where Night 6 was broken, as I received a comment from the game's developer telling me so. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So what actually happens if you beat Night 6? We get one final newspaper article explaining that the owner of Maggie's, Robert Madden, was found dead in his office from a shot to the head. Of course, since we were the only ones left in the building, we are the main and only suspect. We also learned in this newspaper that our name is Stephen Cadell. The article finishes off by informing the public that the pizzeria's new owner will be Robert's son, who isn't named. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this seems like the perfect murder for a son who really wants to take over his father's restaurant. I'm not throwing any fingers, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what this ends up being. Now, you may think I got through this game really quickly, and that's because I did. Five Nights at Maggie's 1 is an incredibly easy and boring game. However, it does pave the way for the super interesting story that the rest of the series tells. So, if you can get over that, then we can talk about Five Nights at Maggie's 2. And I promise, these games are only going to get more and more interesting. Let's dive down the rabbit hole. Five Nights at Maggie's 2 is significantly more interesting than the first game in terms of actual gameplay. To start, there are more than two things to look at. This time, on your desk, you have your cameras and a vent. To your left, you have a big hallway, and to your right, you have Guppy sitting dead as fuck in the corner. Want to hear something really great? The cameras in this game also have vent cams. Isn't that just awesome? Just kidding, I know it isn't. In terms of new characters, there really aren't any, just the returning characters from the first game, except this time, they're all withered. Night 1 introduces 3 threats. Let's start with the most basic of the bunch, that being Maggie herself. Maggie will wander around the cameras in an attempt to get to you through the hallway on your left. Once she enters your hallway, she will make a sound cue letting you know that she is there. When she is, you will have to turn to the hallway, pull up your shock button, and shock the hallway to make her piss off. Except you want to hear something really funny? Maggie has the chance to not leave the hallway when you flash her. Why? Because fuck you, I guess. I really dislike blatant RNG mechanics like this in games. It's the same reason why I hate Five Nights at Freddy's 3 and its bullshit 1 in 7 dick that it pulls. So maybe you don't want to have to deal with the chance of that RNG AIDS. Can you stop Maggie from reaching your hallway? Well, yes, actually you can. Inside of the cameras, you will find a play sound button, which, as the name suggests, will emit a sound on whichever camera you use it on. Maggie does not like this sound, so if you use it on the camera she's on, she will move backwards. Except I actually just lied to you. Remember how I said this was a way to avoid the stupid fucking RNG that Maggie pulls at the door? Well, guess what, fucker? That's right, she pulls the same RNG bullshit in the cameras too, except somehow it's even worse. Maggie has a chance to move forward a camera instead of backwards a camera when the sound button is used, actually making her progress to your hallway even faster. Isn't that just what you want? Hey, I just fucking sounded you, asshole. Don't act like I wasn't on top of that shit. So the way to deal with Maggie comes down to just completely ignoring her in the cameras and letting her attack your hallway, since you're going to have to deal with the RNG regardless. You might as well just put your focus somewhere else and only focus on her when you hear her in the hall. The second character Night 1 introduces is Chanchy. Wanna guess what he does? If you said the exact same thing as Maggie, you'd be absolutely right. And the best part? He also has the chance to be a complete dickhead and ignore everything all the time. Wanna shock him out of your hall? Well, maybe he's feeling like keeping his fat ass right there. Wanna prevent him from parking his fat ass right there with the sound button? Well, maybe he's feeling like getting to your hallway even faster. Fuck it. Okay, fine. So another character that's better off being ignored until an attack. That's not so bad. What about the final threat, Dxtr? Is that one any different? Yes, actually. The final threat introduced on Night 1 is Guppy. I fucking hate Guppy so much it isn't even funny. If you remember, Guppy is in the office with you to your right. Throughout the night, Guppy will try to... how do I say this? Slide his fingers down your crack? Hey, back the fuck up. Back the fuck up, Miss Missy. I tabbed out of the fucking game. The way you stop him is simple. Occasionally check on him and flash your flashlight at him to make him move backwards. The reason why I hate him so much, he makes no noise whatsoever. Not a single peep from this motherfucker right here, and he moves fast, especially on later nights. This guy is so fast, it's infuriating. And because he makes no noise, he's even easier to forget about. I hate him. He is buns. Hot ass, shitty robot. But overall, night 1 isn't too bad. So let's move on to night 2, which introduces 3 new threats: Hank, Flower, and Lola. Let's start with Hank and Flower since they both do the exact same thing. These two take advantage of your vents, crawling through them to attack you via the giant vent directly in front of you. If you see them in the vents, you can close whichever vent they're in. When you do, they too can choose to RNG fuck your ass instead of cooperating. The ideal situation will have them go back to the stage, but in all likelihood, it's much more common for them to go nuh-uh and just move to another fucking vent. Isn't that just so awesome? What's the point of even closing the fucking vent if they're just gonna phase through it? Fuck it, I don't care. Here's something really sick about these guys. Once they enter the big vent, that doesn't mean you lose. If they get to the vent in front of you, if you just stare at them for a few seconds, they will go back to the stage. So this brings up another flaw in this game's design. Using the close vent door button is completely useless against these two, because you can deal with them so much more easily by just allowing them to attack and looking at them. So why even bother checking the vent cams for them at all? Well, whatever. What about Lola? What could she do? Well, she acts as a Phantom Chica type of character. She will appear on the cameras randomly. If you stare at her for too long, she will pile drive towards your office through your vents to attempt to kill you. However, you may have noticed a slight flaw. We've already established that there is no need to check the cameras whatsoever. Maggie and Chaunchi are easily dealt with by letting them attack the hallway, and Hank and Flower are easily dealt with by letting them attack your vent. So is Lola ever a problem? No, and even if she was, when she gets to the vent in front of you, if you just literally look in any direction that isn't directly at her, she will go back to the stage. So again, yet another character that doesn't even need to be worried about. If she's in your vent, just don't look for a few seconds. Sure, she will also disable your cameras for a little bit when she attacks, but we've already established your cameras are pretty much a fucking rock, so that really doesn't matter. Something interesting about Maggie's games is that they don't have any post-night bullshit nobody cares about. So we can just get right into night 2 where we can talk about the first legitimate threat of a character, Porky Pig. Remember him? Yeah? The guy that made my version of Maggie's One Impossible? Which, by the way, I found out in this game, his name is actually Surdy. Needless to say, I already had some pretty bad blood with this guy. But how bad could he really be, right? Very. Let me just tell you, he can be very bad. Surdy can take the approach of every character we've seen so far except Guppy. He can attack both your hallways and your vents. Fuck the hallway attack, it's dealt with in the same way as Maggie and Chaunchi, and yes, also has the same bullshit RNG, so does his camera movements. What we really want to talk about is Surdy in the vents, because that's where he becomes a bitch. When Surdy is in the vents, you need to be in full-blown panic mode. Oh god. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Even the game knows how much of a problem Surdy in your vent is, because it literally gives you a fucking warning on your cameras letting you know exactly which camera he's in. Obviously, if there's not a brain in your head, you have to close the vent until he goes away. And now's the time I should mention how these vent doors actually work, and why they make me want to shove a pencil down my urethra and snap it in half. Since there is no power in this game, there obviously has to be some nerf to these doors, but the nerf chosen just makes me piss blood. But that also might be from the pencil, I'm not sure. If at any point you pull down the cameras, the door will open. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What really makes me want to die is that the door will open even if you switch cameras. So when a door is closed, you're locked in looking at it until whatever is inside leaves. And let me tell you about that. These fat motherfuckers don't move a goddamn inch! Literally, these fuckers will sit there in those vents with the doors closed for what feels like a fucking eternity. And on later nights when Guppy turns into a fucking track star, it makes it really easy to clench your legs so hard your testicles shatter into 32 small ass pieces. Fuck me in my ass. I was literally turning to you. Literally was turning to you. I got stuck. I was fucked, dude. I was fucking everything had to be fixed. The sound had to be fixed. The fucking vents had to be fixed. My dick had to be fixed. Fixed as fuck. Because you can't just stare at him in the vent to make him piss off like you can with the other vent characters. If he gets to you, your onion rings. Completely Jover. But surely this game can't get any more bullshit, right? Surdy was the last character introduced from the first game, and Dxtr already said that there wasn't any new characters, and Dxtr wouldn't lie to me. He's a YouTuber, and a YouTuber has never lied before, right? Hate to break it to you, Buster. I lied. Night 4 introduces Jerry, the blue fucker. Who the fuck is Jerry? Well, let me tell you about Jerry. Have you ever thought to yourself, golly gee, one Surdy is already a headache to deal with. If only I could add another one. Well, if so, then you're in luck. Did you like one fucking Surdy in your ass? Why not two? Because that's exactly what Jerry is. Surdy 2.0. Except there's one key detail that doesn't really matter, but does just show Jerry was supposed to be the most AIDS character of all time. He's not even affected by the sound button, period. So there was quite literally no way to stop him. And he is fast, like really fucking fast. If he gets to your hallway and decides to bullshit RNG you, guess what, fucker? Game over, because by the time your shock recharges, you'll be dead. But in all honesty, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is without a doubt the fucking Tyson gay guppy over there in the corner. You piece of fucking shit! This motherfucker is so goddamn cocksucking fast it hardly seems fair! Everyone in Night 5 is so fucking fast they will be sharding in your eyes from the moment you start the night. But the only place they aren't fast? The fucking vents that you can't look away from lest the doors open wide, allowing for any cold metallic robot to penetrate me in the ass and rupture my colon! Fuck! Fuck! Not to mention that Night 5 is so fucking loud, you won't be able to focus on the sound cues whatsoever. I gave up on Night 5. I don't care. This night was bullshit. This game was bullshit. Butt plug. Heart attack inducing fuck. So no, I didn't beat it. I'm not going to beat it. I'll beat my dick, but let's pretend like I did beat it. What happens then? Well, you get given Night 6. Which is even fucking harder. Just a full-blown ass pounding with you as the main victim. I'm glad I didn't make it this far. I'm glad I chose to piss off when I did, because the rate at which all of my teeth would have been plucked out of my skull would have been astronomical had I forced myself through this AIDS. What about beating Night 6? Has anything amazing happened? No, not really. And that's the most upsetting part. We get a final newspaper clipping explaining that the building we were in burned down for an unknown reason. The only suspect is, of course, once again us, since we were the only ones in the building at the time. We also learn that everything was salvaged in the fire and will be used for a new attraction later down the line. So that would lead you to think, how shitty was that fire that everything was salvaged? Must have been a pretty piss poor fire. Perchance a fire started by a person? Very interesting thought, dear viewer. Let's keep our theory heads turning and move on to the next game. But wait, Dxtr, what about that text that says fake ending in the corner? Well, to be honest with you, I have no idea why that's there. I've been unable to find any evidence of another ending existing in this game, and my only thought is that the third game is meant to serve as the actual true ending. Not only to the story, but to my suffering, because I actually really liked the third game, and I think you will too. So please, let's stop talking about this fucking slop and move on to something a lot more appealing in Five Nights at Maggie's 3. Five Nights at Maggie's 3 is nothing short of a masterpiece, truly a stark contrast from the two games we've touched on so far. I was honestly incredibly surprised by the amazing step up in quality that this game brought to the table, not only in terms of story, but also in terms of graphics and most importantly to me, game mechanics. To start, Maggie's 3 opens to a repair minigame. We're tasked with charging up Maggie. We have to open up her chest, snip some wires, and charge them up. Seems simple enough. You'll notice during this minigame that you're able to turn around to see a dark void of a room behind you that you can flash with your light. But you'll also find that nothing is ever there. After charging up Maggie, we're shown 7 rectangles. One of them fizzles out, symbolizing what I can only assume to be the souls of some dead children, even though child murder hasn't even been mentioned in this series so far. But we're not done yet. We're tossed into a minigame directly after this. A man covered in blood walks into a room, explains he needs to hide again, saying he's trapped here and he won't go anywhere. Not knowing who he is, we're thrown into Night 1. Night 1 actually only introduces one threat, that being Lolo, a new character. But before we can start talking about characters, we need to talk about this office and the tools at our disposal. We have 2 doors. Finally, something we can be familiar with. These work the exact way you'd expect them to, so nothing weird there. Of course, we have our cameras, but you might notice something a little bit different about them. There are 3 menus to surf through on your monitor, and only one of them are your typical cameras. The other menus are your main vent and your breakers. The main vent allows you to look at and shine the main vent, and the breakers allow you to remotely turn off the power to the entire building and specific cameras. But we'll talk about why those are important later. The final interesting mechanic is the vent door button on one of your cameras, but that will become important once we talk about 2 certain rascals later in this video. For now, we have to talk about Lolo. Lolo is as simple as a character can get. He is this game's Bonnie. He will move through the cameras and approach your right door. When he's there, simply close the door until you hear him leave, and bada bing bada boom, that cycle will repeat. Again, it's Night 1, I don't think you expected anything crazy. Now we can talk about the post-Night 2 repair minigame, this time having to repair Bob. Side note, every character in this game aside from 2 are brand new. Same formula as the last minigame, except this time there's actually something in that darkness behind you, Surdy. But this time, it's just his endoskeleton. No mom skin. Your mom specifically. Get it? Because she's a pig? Oink. He will slowly try to creep up on you to kill you. Whenever you hear him, simply turn around and hold your light on him to make him go back. He's very slow these first few nights, but trust me, these minigames can get a little out of control on later nights. After completing the minigame, another rectangle fades away and we get another 8-bit cutscene. This time we see 2 men. One of them goes to make coffee while the other sits to read the newspaper. He begins to read about a serial killer dubbed the Frankenstein. Hearing that name makes the man at the counter freeze. He knows something. After 8 years of silence, the serial killer has re-emerged, taking the life of a 16-year-old boy. The body was found in the John McAdams warehouse, the same building that Five Nights at Maggie's 2 took place in. The man reading the newspaper, named Steve, mentions he thought John himself was the killer, but thinks that it could maybe be his son Henry, who had apparently been missing. He mentions Henry killed someone, but before he can get out exactly who he killed, the man at the counter, named Aaron, asks him to leave. After Steve leaves, Aaron goes over to the table to look at the newspaper, mentioning how he didn't stop and that this isn't over, not mentioning who he actually is. And with that, we go right into Night 2. Night 2 introduces 4 new animatronics. However, it's actually really only 3, and I will obviously be explaining why, since I'd be a pretty shitty reviewer if I didn't. To start, let's talk about Rolf. A very stupid name, by the way. Rolling on the floor laughing ass animatronic. Damn, he got a dick on him though, look at that! Rolf is the first character to take advantage of your main vent camera. You will be able to hear him enter it. Thank God for sound cues, they're honestly probably my favorite part of FNAF games at this point. When you hear him in the vent, simply go to it and hold your light on him until he goes away. Very simple character with a very simple mechanic, but in my opinion, the simple mechanics are the best mechanics, because it allows for your whole roster to not feel completely unfair while dealing with all of them. The next character introduced is Bob the Pig. He works the exact same way as Lolo, except he attacks your left door instead of your right. Really nothing else super interesting to note for this character, just this game's Chica. The other two characters introduced on this night are Esther and Lester. These two animatronics always stay together, which is why I say they're really just one animatronic. They take advantage of the other vent that you can't see on camera 7. Once again, they make a sound cue when they're trying to enter the cam 7 vent. All you have to do is close the vent on that camera and they will quickly go back to their stage. Again, incredibly easy characters to deal with, but from my personal experience, were the easiest to miss. Night 2's post-night repair minigame has us fixing up Lolo. Nothing special. But I do want to talk about the cutscene that Night 2 brings. Two siblings named Henry and Stacy stop outside of a Maggie's location. Yes, this is the Henry that was mentioned in last night's cutscene. They had a conversation about their mom who died after Stacy was born. It's revealed that their dad works a lot, but we're not told what. It's also hinted that their dad doesn't love Henry in the same way that he loves Stacy. Night 3 introduces the first real, honest threat I think this game has. That being this funny-looking green fellow. You want to take a guess at what his name is? If you said Chomper, you'd be completely fucking wrong because his name is Cracky. Excuse me? Cracky? What a fucked up name. I don't actually know literally any of these characters' names. I know Maggie and I guess Bob now. I'm gonna guess this is Crackle. Fucking on Crackle. I know, I'm hilarious. What can I say? This is what I do for a living. I play Five Nights at Freddy's for a living. For a job. This is my job. Isn't that weird? That's fucking weird. Oh, whatever. Why do I feel this guy is actually a threat? Well, that's because he is this game's first integration of a watch me on the camera mechanic. A mechanic that, if you're familiar with my channel, you know I'm not a huge fan of. You cannot allow Cracky to leave the stage or you will be split open like a double wide surprise. That is fucked, by the way. This looks so fucked. Obviously, all you have to do is stare him down on the cameras, which is not very challenging. But because of a certain character we'll talk about later, Cracky will very quickly become a big problem that you will probably forget about. I want to use this time to talk about the power situation in this game. Being the first in the series to actually use power, I was a bit nervous this would be another SCP endurance case where you have absolutely no power throughout the entire game. But to my surprise, it was actually the complete opposite. You actually have a ridiculous amount of power in this game. So much so that for the first few nights, I had the cameras up the entire night, while also closing the Cam 7 vent the entire time as well, and still completed the night with a decent amount of power remaining. You do not have to think about power conservation in this game, which I really appreciate. Night 3's post-night repair minigame has us repair Cracky, and it's on this night that Surdy really starts to get quick. So this is probably the point of these segments where they will start to take a long time to complete. The cutscene that plays after this segment is one of the most disturbing I've seen since Five Nights at Candy's 3. Stacy and her dad are in the dark talking to one another. Stacy mentions how scared she is. Her dad gives her a sleeping pill, explaining that after she wakes up, she'll feel better than she ever has before in a brand new body. After Stacy falls asleep, a shock lights up the room, revealing that Stacy had been electrocuted to death. Attempting to cement her soul inside of one of the machines, his experiment fails, and he's left to cry alone inside of the room with his daughter's corpse. This is easily one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. Not because of what we directly see, but because of the idea of what John did to his own flesh and blood. Five Nights at Maggie shows proof that you can tell stories about incredibly horrendous things in an interesting and not overtly edgy way. With all of the shortcomings I feel this game series has, I can easily say that the story is not one of them. Moving on to Night 4, we're introduced to the two final characters this game has to offer, Maggie and, of course, Surdy. Let's start with Maggie since she's simple. She works in the exact same way that Rolf does. She attacks through your main vent. All you need to do is hold a flashlight on her and she'll go away. Now we can talk about the big bastard himself, Surdy, who once again, in this game is just an endoskeleton. This guy right here is this game's big challenger. Surdy makes use of your breakers. Occasionally, he will appear on any camera in the building. When he does, he will emit a loud sound. You will have to shut off the breaker to the room he's in, which will deactivate him. This is not difficult. What is difficult is when Surdy is paired with Cracky. With how frequently Surdy will attack, Cracky will very easily be able to get several movement opportunities in on you, leading to you needing to stare at him for longer while the rest of the cast does all of their bullshit. But once again, because of how simple everyone's mechanics are, it serves to make this game tense, but not overtly difficult. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great that max modes exist, and that people are pushing the limits of what's possible with Five Nights at Freddy's games. But not every game needs to be the most difficult thing on planet Earth. Some games just really want to tell a story, and I can appreciate this game for doing so. After beating Night 4, we repair Rolf, and of course get a new cutscene. Henry, now with the alias Stephen Cadell, which if you remember is the name of the player we played as in the first Maggie's, walks into the CEO of Maggie's office with a gun. The CEO, if you remember, named Robert Madden. He reveals he knew that his real name was Henry, reveals that he knows what Henry did, and admits he still never fired him for fear of tarnishing the brand for hiring a fugitive. I'll dive into exactly what Henry did when I talk about the lore later in this video. Henry demands to get his father's experiment files, and when Robert refuses, Henry shoots him in the head. This is the situation that was mentioned at the end of Five Nights at Maggie's 1. Night 5 introduces nothing new, just being a harder version of Night 4. After completing it, you fix both Esther and Lester, and of course, we get another cutscene, which is also pretty disturbing in nature. John McAdams, expecting to see his son home by 11, is still working on his project. Henry, his son, walks in at 12 completely plastered. Henry begins to gaslight his father for not caring about his own children, and claims that he's responsible for killing Jason, a brother that up until this point we hadn't heard of. John reveals that he used his animatronics to revive his children from the dead because he loved them. Henry, not knowing any of this had been taking place up until this point, is obviously incredibly upset. Henry ends up killing his father in a fit of rage, and John McAdams' soul is accidentally revived in the animatronic of Surdy. That's right, the final boss of the first two Maggie's games was Henry's dad. So now we have to question, why would his dad be trying to kill him? Once again, Night 6 adds nothing new, just being more difficult than the last. The repair minigame, however, is different. There are no more characters to repair. The only character who remains is Surdy. You must wait for him to appear behind you and shock him. After shocking Surdy, we get something I never expected when I first started playing these games. We get an amazing monologue right up there with the Henry speech from Pizzeria Simulator. I don't want to explain it to you, I'd rather you listen to it. But before I show you it, I think it's time I finally dive into the lore of this game. Our story begins on May 25th, 1975. John McAdams, founder of John McAdams Entertainment, discovers what he believes to be immortality. He hides his experiments behind his company, using the animatronics as a cover for something much more horrifying: the merging of human life with machines. And what better way to test that theory than on your own son? Jason McAdams, age 3, becomes John's first experiment. On June 3rd, 1978, the experiment works. Jason's body moves again, but not like a human. He's primitive, lifeless, hollow. John calls him a success, a prototype, the first step towards eternal life. But it's not enough. John continues his work, kidnapping orphans, experimenting on them, filling his creations with broken souls. The police start investigating, but John's too careful and nothing sticks. Everything he's done stays buried until tragedy strikes his own family. On June 2nd, 1981, John's daughter Stacy is hit by a car after chasing a balloon into the street. She's brought back to her father, barely alive, and John sees another chance. He tries to revive her using the same process that brought Jason back. It fails, and what's left of Stacy dies in his arms. In Five Nights at Maggie's 1, you can actually hear John crying during one of the tapes. That is this moment. A year later, everything falls apart. On August 26, 1982, John's last surviving son, Henry, comes home drunk, furious, covered in stains, and done with his father's bullshit. He accuses John of killing his siblings, of caring more about his machines than his family, and for once, he's right. John tries to justify it, saying he only wanted to bring them back, that he did this because he loved them, but Henry heard enough. He kills his father right then and there, but death doesn't stick in this family, because the next day, John wakes up again inside the Surdy animatronic. His experiment worked, but at the cost of his own humanity. The man who wanted immortality finally got it, but in the most twisted way imaginable. Years pass, and Henry goes into hiding under a new name, Stephen Cadell. On May 3rd, 1985, he takes a job at Maggie's Magical World as a night guard, seemingly just looking for cash. But through old VHS tapes, he learns the horrifying truth. His father is still alive inside Surdy. Henry tracks down Robert Madden, the new CEO of John McAdams Entertainment, and demands his father's research. Robert admits he's known who Henry really is this entire time, but never fired him because it would tarnish the company's image. So Henry does what the McAdams family does best. He kills him. He stands on business. But even that isn't the end. In 1992, a new serial killer surfaces. The media calls him the Frankenstein. Victims are found mutilated, fused with machine parts, and all signs point to one name, John McAdams. Somehow, he's still out there, using the Surdy suit to continue his experiments. Henry, now under yet another alias, Aaron Meyer, realizes his father will never stop, and if he can't destroy him, he has to contain him. But this story isn't just about the McAdams family. Around the same time, another branch of the company is causing problems of its own. Back in 1980, two men were hired to perform as springlock entertainers at a restaurant called Surdy and Jerry's. They were taught how to use the suits by Daniel Gennaro, the son of the restaurant's founder, Manuel Gennaro. When Manuel died, Daniel took over and rebranded the place into Guppy's Magical World, adding new characters like Cracky and Guppy. Everything was fine until 1988, when both performers suffered springlock failures live on stage. One jumped off mid-performance, the other tried to save him, and both ended up crushed inside their suits. They die instantly, only to possess the animatronics they performed in. Daniel, being the charming piece of shit he is, mocks their death, saying the only real problem the company would ever have is if kids went missing. And sure enough, soon after, they do. Surdy and Jerry, now possessed, start killing children, souls that would later inhabit Maggie, Lola, and Chanchy in the first two games. Eventually, in 1990, a sister location called Maggie's Magical World opens and the pattern repeats. More kids vanish, and an investigator, our playable character, takes a job trying to uncover the truth. Each night, we explore a different location, finding drawings, blueprints, newspaper clippings, everything pointing towards what's really been happening behind the scenes. By night 4, we find a hidden room behind the show stage. It's filled with evidence and notes from a previous investigator, the same one who went missing. When we report everything to our boss, he fires us, calls us crazy, and closes the case. So we leak the evidence online, the internet takes over, and the investigation reopens, exposing both Maggie's and Guppy's for what they really were. It's later revealed that everything we did, everything we learned, was told to us by Surdy himself. He's old, broken, but aware. A robot reflecting on his past life, telling us how everything fell apart. It's one of the most haunting story choices in any Five Nights at Freddy's game I've ever seen. But it's not just about what happened, it's about who's left to remember it. Decades pass. It's now May 10th, 2021. Henry McAdams returns one final time to the same company that destroyed his family. But this time, he's not there to work. He's there to end everything. Having studied his father's research, Henry manipulates Surdy's systems to lock his father's soul inside of the metal shell permanently. No voice, no movement, no escape. After nearly half a century of murder, obsession, and tragedy, John McAdams is finally forced to face eternity, the very thing he was chasing all along. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Five Nights at Maggie's isn't just another FNAF clone. It's a full-blown tragedy about legacy, obsession, and consequence. A father chasing immortality, a son chasing redemption, and both of them becoming monsters in the process. It's poetic, it's grim, and for a fan game, it's shockingly well told. John McAdams may have discovered immortality, but in the end, he lost everything that made him human. And Henry, he may have stopped his father, but he had to become just like him to do it. So, before we listen to that final monologue, just remember this. No one in this story found eternal life. They just found eternal suffering.
19 years. 19 years trying to stop you. 19 years studying your findings. Your horrible experiments. The immortality you were seeking all this time. And I did it. I made it work. Let me tell you, I was about to give up. But you made a bad choice to try it one last time. Lester Arias. That death. That was the last straw. That's how I knew that you were not going to stop. Not even in that body. I've been studying your blueprints and analyzing your tapes for longer than I can remember. And let me tell you, you made quite a few mistakes. Yes, you did achieve immortality with full consciousness in your body. But still, your movements were limited. Being sensitive to light, to sound. I thought John McAdams was smarter than that. But don't worry. Your son, the failure, the disgrace to the family, fixed all those problems for you and finally made it work. Or something like that. You see, I didn't want the kids to be in those bodies. They deserved a better life. They deserved a normal childhood. Play with kids their age, go to school, and socialize like normal human beings. You took that away from them a long time ago. They deserved to rest, once and for all. Jason and Stacy, they are resting from the hell you put them through. All of them, finally free. But for you, I had a very special plan. I didn't know if I should show all the things you've done to the world. On one hand, it would have brought peace to the people who were still terrified of the dreaded Frankenstein. But I decided to keep your reputation intact. You are still the great John McAdams. To some extent. Most people have forgotten you after the company went under a couple of years ago. I knew that if I brought this to light, your name would make a comeback, and I didn't want to give you the pleasure. That's why I decided to grant you your wish of immortality, but with a little twist. I wanted to make sure you feel the hell that you put Jason, Stacy, and all the other kids through. So, I added a few changes. You won't be able to speak. You won't be able to move. You will have no control over your body. You will still see, feel, and hear everything. You will live for eternity inside that machine with nothing more to do but see how your work, your name, and your wish of being remembered like some kind of god vanishes like the figments of some bad dream. You won't rest. You will suffer for eternity. It's time you pay for your sins, John.
And there you have it. As far as I'm aware, that is everything that Five Nights at Maggie's has to offer. A game series that started off on a sour note for me and ended up becoming one of the most interesting and engaging stories I've ever experienced. I'd highly recommend you give the third game a try, as it is actually a very enjoyable game. The jump in quality between these games is astonishing, and it's so clear that the developer poured everything they had into it, and that's something I can totally appreciate. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that this series was actually complete perfection the entire way through? Let me know in the comments below. In my SCP Endurance video, I asked you guys who your favorite SCP was and why. My favorite comment was this one by Maincrack. They said SCP-001, and I agree. Honestly, one of the coolest SCPs ever designed, and of course, an absolute classic.